This is the Rob Brown Show.
Yeah.
Only on ESPN.
ESPN Upstate.
And away we go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, all ages. The big show is on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. Hello to you, and how do you do, Upstate South Carolina? Great to be back with you, and back right here in the Upstate after a week down in the Sunshine State. I make my ever so triumphant return back to the Upstate of South Carolina, back to the hills. And, man, it is good to be back. Thanks for hanging out with us. 3 hours of sports talk excellence coming your way, starting right this very second. I am, of course, Rob Brown, back in the network studio. Lonzo off for the week. So we tune in to the man who has been training. He has been doing the Rocky montages. I have seen him running up every staircase in the Upstate. My man, DJ Drew at the helm. Drew, what's up, fella? How you doing, man? Well, we don't hear you. Oh, there he is.
Fun to be here.
Yeah, man. Great to have you along for the ride. Thanks for joining us. And how was the weekend, partner?
Oh, my weekend was fantastic. Just a lot of sports, finally. We weren't just sitting around waiting for stuff to happen. It was just watching headline after headline happen.
Wasn't it a nice change of pace? Just a nice change of pace. I got to tell you, and I got excited this morning, Drew, because I found out that over the weekend, my grandmother, who is one of the most important people in my life, my grandmother got her COVID-19 vaccination schedule completed. My mother, my brother, my sister-in-law all have first shots, so they are all halfway to being vaccinated. It looks like still probably going to be closer to May before I'm able to get mine. But, Drew, I got to tell you, between that news breaking over the past couple of days, the bracket coming out yesterday, we know who's playing where, and there's still some question marks, teams like Virginia and Kansas, etc. Still some question marks about the way that the COVID schedule is going to work around them. But with all those things happening over the last couple of days, Drewski, the world, dare I say, almost feels normal. Almost. Not entirely, absolutely, but almost feels normal. And what a nice change in feeling that is, Drew.
Yeah, it's great.
All right.
It's nice to just go back to where we thought we were going to be a year ago. I still have my 2020 NCAA t-shirt, a blank white t-shirt. It's going to be nice to fill that out this year.
Yes. I was my brother's neighbor last year had flown through the ATL where where March Madness was supposed to be played out. The Final Four was supposed to be played out last year. And, I got super excited when I got the gig here because I thought, man, I'm less than 2 hours away from where the Final Four is going to take place. You had better believe that I'm going to be there. Better believe that I'm going to be there. And then obviously everything got taken away from us, which was just painful, man. Just absolutely painful. Now at least we have that coming back to us. So, this thing's not over, Drew. There's a lot going on. I was, in fact, over the weekend, I was looking up tickets to the NASCAR race that's going to be at Bristol. We got Atlanta this weekend and then Bristol the weekend after that. I was getting pumped about being able to head over to Bristol and go watch that dirt race. I looked up the tickets to the race at Bristol. Drew, those tickets for a regular race, granted it's the dirt race, so it is a historic race, but tickets for that dirt race to sit up in the cheap seats are going for like $400+. We are not out of this thing. We are not back to normal by any stretch of the imagination. But you had better believe that just being able to sit here coming up on Thursday and to watch the opening rounds of March Madness on Thursday and Friday, man, that's the best I've felt about sports, and I don't know how long, man. It really is.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that was a little bit concerning was all these cancellations and with teams that had to drop out because of COVID. And can you imagine just being that team, take Gonzaga, for example, who has just had all these seniors come back and they're ready to play, and then something happens again that COVID strikes and somebody has to step out, cancel, or whatever.
Yeah, we saw Virginia, we saw Kansas, we saw Duke all have to exit their conference tournaments because of the Rona. There are still questions. Virginia has been set up as the 4 seed taking on Ohio in round number 1. They cannot even travel until, I believe, Friday morning, which means that if they get the opportunity to play, they may very well have to travel Friday and then play a game Friday night against a decent little 13 seed in Ohio, led by Dwight Wilson, who is averaging 15 a game. I mean, they can put the brown thing in the round thing. So, this tournament there's still question marks. There's still a lot to be determined as far as far as to how the formalities are going to work out, the technical aspects, the logistics. We've got a lot that still needs to be tinkered with. I think we know we're looking at the concept of replacement teams if anybody has to fall out, etc. So it's going to be interesting, no doubt about it. We're going to get to all that and a lot more as the show rolls on, but considering it is the opening segment, it's time to do that little thing that we do.
Let's do lunch.
This is a very nutritious lunch. All the food groups are represented.
You guys here?
What in the wide world of sports is going on here? Lunch!
The lunch breakdown, the 3 things that you have to know before you go start talking sports with your friends, family, coworker, or the wall, whoever you spend your lunch break with. These are the 3 things the folks in the upstate will be batting around today. For former Boston Celtics vet forward Gordon Hayward, his new home has been right up the road in Charlotte, playing for the Hornets. And at the time of the signing, through even discussions as of recent, people wondered why. Why would that team offer him $128 million for 4 years? Why would he be lured away from a contender in the East, the Boston Celtics, to move down the road to a Charlotte team that does not seem to have the same pop? Why would he walk away from the growing talent of the likes of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in order to play in Charlotte? Well, Gordon Hayward has posted a blog where he actually talked a little bit about how he ended up in Charlotte. He said, quote, "When I signed, I envisioned going somewhere where I'd have more responsibility and could maximize who I am as a basketball player, or at least have an opportunity to maximize who I am. I have that here. I have the ball in my hands more. I have more responsibility. That's what I wanted." End quote. If he thought he was escaping a youth movement in Boston, he learns that that is not the case. He said, quote, "We had a bunch of young players in Boston, and I remember saying, like, man, it feels weird to be the old guy. And I think it was like 27 or 28. Now here I am at 30, and we have 19-year-old LaMelo and a bunch of 20 and 21-year-olds. Having Ronald Nord, who was my road roommate in college, on the coaching staff, that for sure makes me feel old," end quote. But Gordon Hayward, who certainly we know left a situation in Boston where it felt like things were trending up, albeit slowly, has found a home for himself in Charlotte where he's doing big things. He's played in every game so far this year. Is shooting a 48% clip, which is better than all but 2 seasons in his entire career at this point throughout the season. He's averaging 21 points a game. Things are going exceptionally well for Gordon Hayward, and I just found that blog to be very interesting. We'll revisit that later on in the show. Item number 2, that's all, folks. 20 years in the National Football League, 15 of them in New Orleans, and over the weekend, Drew Brees, along with his kids, Balin, Bowen, Callan, and Rylan, announced in a video that it is over. Drew Brees said on Instagram, quote, "After 20 years as a player in the NFL and 15 years as a Saint, it is time I retire from the game of football. Each day, I poured my heart and soul into being your quarterback. Till the very end, I exhausted myself to give everything I had to the Saints organization, my team, and the great city of New Orleans. We shared some amazing moments together, many of which are emblazoned in our hearts and minds and will forever be a part of us. You have molded me, strengthened me, inspired me, and given me a lifetime of memories. My goal for the last 15 years was striving to give you everything you have given me and more. I am only retiring from playing football. I am not retiring from New Orleans. This is not goodbye, rather a new beginning. Now my real life's work begins." The 42-year-old retires as the NFL's all-time leader in career passing yards at 80,358, ranks second all-time in touchdown passes at 571, and completion percentage at 67.7%. More than that, though, Brees will always be revered for helping to revive the Saints franchise in the city of New Orleans in the wake of Hurricane Katrina, when he and Sean Payton arrived together as the head coach QB duo in 2006. They led the Saints to the NFC Championship game in that first year. They won the only Super Bowl in franchise history just 3 years later. Brees was named the game's MVP. And while Brees never got back to a second Super Bowl for a lot of very dumb reasons, which I will talk about later on in the show, it is a career of memories in New Orleans. I will tell you that is while winning Super Bowls is the ultimate prize in the National Football League, when you stand on the brink of watching your team leave, when you stand on the brink of not knowing how long or if your team was going to uproot and move somewhere else, I can tell you that while winning Super Bowls is the ultimate goal, what Drew Brees did for the city of New Orleans and did for that football team feels even bigger than that. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit more detail coming up in just a little while ago. Look, I know we are not in a New Orleans Saints market, and I will apologize to you all in advance as a lifelong Saints fan. Yes, I have some things that I will need to say about Drew Brees on the air today. It will not be the whole show. I've got one segment to talk about the guy, what he meant to me, what he meant to my family, what he meant to that city, et cetera, and I will take advantage of that opportunity coming up in just a little while from now. And finally, item number 3 on the lunch breakdown today, ladies and gentlemen, it's March, baby. You gotta be kidding me. The brackets are out. It's pandemonium, baby. That's a C+ Dick Vitale impression, Drew. C+ at best.
I didn't think it was too bad, to be honest.
You just sounded like Don Rickles for a second.
Yeah.
All right, brackets are out. Here's what we know where everybody stands as of right now. The number 1 overall seed in the tournament, number 1 in the West, Gonzaga, will be taking on the winner of Norfolk State and Diesel's Appalachian State. That's a play-in game for the 16 seed. Gonzaga, 26-0 on the season, a team that has the opportunity to be the first since Indiana did it back in the late 70s to go through an entire undefeated season. And so far, America believes that that will happen. Gonzaga picked by 33% of the brackets that have been submitted so far. Drew, that means for every bracket that's been submitted, 1 out of every 3 brackets submitted has selected Gonzaga to be your NCAA basketball champion, and I don't fault them because that's a damn fine basketball squad.
It's the safe choice. It's who you would pick if you were a betting person. Why not go with the undefeated team, an undefeated season? It's almost a Cinderella story when you look at the Gonzaga team who has not done it like this before. So,
yeah, I don't know that I can call Maleficent turned into the dragon as a Cinderella team. They're just a monster. They're just a monster. They are the dragon to be slayed by the rest of the college basketball landscape. And I got to tell you, you're right. It is the safe pick. It is the odds-on pick. They are like 1-1. I mean, it's not even fair, the odds you're getting for Vegas to pick the Zags, but that's why they're the number 1 overall seed. Also in the West, your 2 seed, the Hawkeyes of Iowa, meaning that we could have a very, very, very interesting Elite 8 matchup out of the West if Iowa, and by the way, I don't think Iowa is a guarantee. I like Luke Garza a lot. I like this Hawkeyes squad a lot, but they are no guarantee to make it to the Elite 8. However, if they do, if they are able to get out of the bottom half of the West bracket by knocking off a 22-7 and decent USC squad, a 20-8 Kansas squad, which, by the way, we still don't know what Kansas is going to look like when they get to that point. We're still watching this whole thing play out with Kansas being impacted by the Rota. But if Kansas is full strength in the Sweet 16, that'll be interesting for Iowa. They've also got a decent Oregon squad. Chris Duarte, who I got to watch play and call games for in college down at the JUCO level when he played for Northwest Florida State College. Now one of the leading scorers for the Oregon Ducks, waiting for Iowa in the second round if they can get by Grand Canyon. Up in the top half of the bracket, along with Gonzaga, Oklahoma, and Mizzou, your 8-9 game. Creighton is the 5 seed. And Virginia, the 4 seed, which means that they would catch the Zags in the Sweet 16 if they can make it that far. But again, we still don't even know if the Who's are going to be able to make it there. Over in the South region, your second overall 1 seed is Baylor. Down underneath them, meaning the round of 32 would be the winner of North Carolina and Wisconsin out of the Big Ten. That's an interesting game. The Tar Heels fell to the Seminoles of Florida State in the ACC semis. It bumped them up to an 8 seed. But that 17-12 Wisconsin team coming out of a very good Big Ten is going to be an interesting game. Villanova, the 5 seed, after getting upset in their tournament, takes on Winthrop as the 12. Also in that side of the bracket, the Arkansas Razorbacks, number 3 seed, taking on Colgate. Y'all, I've watched that Red Raider basketball team. That might be an upset pick in the Rob Brown bracket, the 14-3 upset. We'll talk about it. Florida and Virginia Tech out of the SEC and ACC, respectively, in the 2 seed. Out of the South is Ohio State, taking on Oral Roberts in the opening round. Over in the East, Michigan gets a number 1 seed. LSU, who put on a fireworks show with Alabama that Drew and I are going to talk about coming up in a few minutes, is the 8 seed, taking on the St. Bonaventure Bonnies as the 9 seed. Colorado, out of the Pac-12, is a 5 seed. FSU finds themselves as the 4 seed in that bracket, taking up a group of boys from right up the road. UNC Greensboro is the 13 seed. FSU falling to Georgia Tech in the ACC finals, meaning Georgia Tech got that auto bid. They're over in the Midwest bracket with Clemson. We'll talk about that in a second. But FSU was the 4 seed, could match up with Michigan in the Sweet 16. BYU, the 6 seed. Texas, the 3 seed. UConn, the 7. Alabama is your 2 seed after winning the SEC tournament yesterday in that bracket. An Alabama-Michigan matchup is possible. We'll talk about that coming up in a little while. And then finally, Clemson's bracket, the Midwest bracket. Illinois is the 1 seed. Georgia Tech comes in as the 9 seed after winning the ACC, taking on the 8 of Loyola Chicago. The winner will be treated to a dance, likely with Illinois taking on Drexel in round 1. Tennessee is over there. So are the red-hot Oklahoma State Cowpokes, who win their conference tournament as well. Down in the bottom half of that bracket, San Diego State, number 6, taking on, out of the ACC, number 11, Syracuse. Almost heaven, West Virginia, the 3 seed. Clemson at 16-7 will be the 7 seed. They open it up. I like this run, ladies and gentlemen. Drew, I love this setup for the Tigers. I said the same thing about the ACC tournament, and they friggin' blew it. But Rutgers is a team Clemson can beat. Houston or Cleveland State. That Houston Cougs team can get up and down a little bit, but if Clemson plays a defensive game, they can knock off H-Town. Then they've got the winner of San Diego State, Syracuse, West Virginia, or Morehead State. Clemson can win all of those games. Drew, the Clemson Tigers set up really well for an Elite Eight run. The question is, similar to the ACC tournament, will they win or will they beat themselves again?
Yeah. You said the same thing for the ACC, and you took the words right out of my mouth. Set up for a great run means you should be able to win. And everyone's been saying about the Clemson Tigers all year. They should be able to win this game. I just don't see it. I really don't see them winning, even if they should. It comes down to execution. And when has Clemson really done a great job scoring more points than the other team, period?
We're going to talk more about the Tigers here in just a little while as our brackets are out. Ladies and gentlemen, we will address them coming up very, very soon, but we got to take a quick break. My name is Rob Brown. Drew's back at the helm in charge today. We're coming back talking basketball on the Rob Brown Show. It's ESPN Upstate.
You're listening to the Rob Brown Show. Listen on your...
All right, so you can play the liner, like I can hear the liner, which is my cue to come in and out.
Yeah.
But we can't play the music back to me.
Yeah, gotcha. Oh, sorry about that.
Nope, it's all good.
Let me run. I forgot my headphones in my other room. I can't believe I did that.
Yeah, you're going to need those.
Yes, I am.
Brian straight up says Clemson ain't getting past Rutgers. Wow. No belief in the Tigers, huh? No belief in the Tigers. Probably lose first round. Wow, Tracy taking the shot, man. Indiana has just fired their coach. Wow. I got to fill out my bracket still.
You are still filling it up?
No, I haven't filled one out yet at all.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
I need to, though.
Yeah.
I know my Final Four squads already. I got my chalk ready.
Come on. All right. And you're on.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate. Rob, DJ Drew filling in for Lonzo this week. 844-GSP. ESPN's the number, 844-477-3776. The text line is up as well at 71307. 71307. Start your text with ESPN. Tweet us at The Rob Brown Show, at The Rob Brown Show, and at ESPN Upstate, the Twitter handles. You on Twitter, Drew? I forgot to ask.
I just been hacking the ESPN Upstate Twitter account to learn what I can at the station.
Perfect.
Been good enough for me.
Perfect. All right. So you can tweet us at The Rob Brown Show. You can tweet us both and everyone at ESPN Upstate, at ESPN Upstate on the Twitter device if you would like to. And join us on the live stream. Hello to Ron, Brian, Tracy, Everybody tweeting in so far. Join us at facebook.com/ESPN Upstate. Go to my Twitter handle, twitter.com/The Rob Brown Show, or hit us up on YouTube at The Rob Brown Show on YouTube. We carry the stream live at all three of those sources. If you comment on any of those streams, they will pop up for you over here on the pop up for me over here on our streaming homepage. We can read them on the air. We'll put them up on the screen as well. So make sure you go join us live on our stream. Hello to everybody that's joined us so far. Wish the rest of you would jump in and hang out with us here on an Upstate Monday afternoon. So we started talking about our brackets. Our brackets are out. And Clemson, we mentioned 7 seed in the tournament. They got Rutgers in the first round, the 15 and 11 squad out of New Jersey. Listen, here is what it comes down. And this is the reason that so many people are ready to move on from Brad Brownell. I saw somebody earlier today with a take on Twitter that said Clemson is the 7 seed in the NCAA tournament. What more could you ask for? And my thought is better performance when you get those seeds, right? Clemson has entered the tournament under Brad Brownell 3 times. They've gone in as a 12 seed, a 7 seed, and a 5 seed. They have been terrible in the ACC tournament in Greensboro year after year. They have not accomplished anything there. I'm not saying you should win an ACC title every year. The ACC title, the ACC tournament is a damn difficult tournament to win. But this is a good Clemson team. And Drew and I we talked about this a little bit off the air. We're going to talk about the team coming up in a few minutes. But behind Alamir Dawes, this is a good Clemson basketball team, a team that should run the paint, a team that should play excellent defense, and a team that has failed to do so in a number of big-time tournament games, both the ACC tournament and the tournament. They should be able to clamp down and beat Rutgers. Then, second round, they take on the 2 seed Houston. Houston's the worst 2 seed, and yeah, they're 24-3. It's a damn good record. But Houston is the least talented of the 2 seeds. You got Iowa as the 2 seed up in the West. In the South, Ohio State is the 2 seed. Alabama, the 2 seed out of the East. Houston is the most beatable 2 seed. It's going to take one of Clemson's better games this year, but they can win that game. And if they get by the Houston Cougs, the 2 seed out of the bottom half of the Midwest bracket, they are set up beautifully because Syracuse, who has played better ball, is capable of out-hustling San Diego State at number 6 in West Virginia. Out of those 4 teams, the 6-11, 3-14, San Diego State, Syracuse, almost 7 West Virginia, and Morehead State. Out of those 4 teams, one of those 4, if Clemson's able to make it to the Sweet 16, will square off with the Tigers. There's not one of those 4 teams that I don't think Clemson can beat. Now, they will be underdogs against West Virginia. They will likely be underdogs against the Aztecs of San Diego State. But those are winnable games, and we have seen Clemson knock off top 5 seeds, top 7 seeds in the ACC this year. They can do it. The problem that I have picking Clemson, as much as I want to, is that more often than not, Clemson beats themselves in the tournament. And their last game, where they got upset by a good but not great Miami Hurricane squad, was a game that they took an L because they beat themselves. Miami played decent basketball in that game. But I can just point at the last 45 seconds of that game to show you that Clemson was better than Miami, right? I can point at the last 45 seconds of that game. I'm looking at a Miami team that simply needed to inbound the ball not once but twice. And twice in consecutive possessions, Miami turned the ball over. They were not a great basketball team by any stretch of the imagination. And Clemson beat themselves in that game. The most high-pressure game of the tournament, of the season for the Tigers, and Brownell's squad mentally was just not there. They just weren't there. This bracket, just like the ACC tournament, this bracket was set up beautifully in the ACC. The NCAA tournament, same situation. My fear for Clemson is that the results will be the same. Couple of messages that have come in on the stream. Joseph Bright says, Brownell is Tommy Bowden, a really nice guy and a fairly competent coach, but not a guy who will consistently win the big games. This is the ceiling for this program under Brad Brownell. Well, if that's true, Joseph, I would ask you, and I would ask our listeners and our texters and our tweeters out there, is that acceptable? Is that acceptable? Somebody said, what more? Brownell's reached it 3 times. He's coming in as a 17. What more could you want? I don't know, better than a 17. Some wins when you are a 17. When the bracket appears to have damn near been custom made for you in the ACC tournament and the NCAA tournament, I expect you to show up. That's my baseline expectation, is show up. Drew, it's one thing to lose a game. Good teams lose games. It happens. It's one thing to lose a game to a good team because sports. It is another thing to lose games against teams you should beat, with teams that are better than those squads, and that be the consistent, that be the rule, not the exception. I expect better than that for a Clemson team that has proven that they can bring in talent.
And to your point, the week before, they had beaten Miami by 8. So that everyone knew, okay, Clemson is better than Miami because we had already played the game. But I wanted to go all the way back to the first time they played Miami. They were coming off a big win against FSU, Alabama, Maryland. They were looking good. But when they played that Miami game the first time, the final score 66-65. And this is what I was telling a few people. I said, I think Clemson, Miami are identical in stature of how they match up against everybody this season. Clemson has done better than Miami, but you didn't expect Miami to be that great this year, and I did not expect Clemson to be that year. After that game, they went on to lose to Virginia, Georgia Tech, FSU. The true numbers began to really come out, and I just said, if you have that high of expectations for Clemson, then you better be careful. I just think a lot of people got really excited. And when you look at the amount of talent that they had the exact same amount of talent as Miami did. They won a few games in the ACC, and I was telling people the ACC is down this year. So if you have this high expectation coming off those few wins early in the season, that Alabama game, once again, Alabama was not expected to do that well. They surprised a lot of people that Alabama was able to rise to the top. And where does that come from? Great coaching, developing the talent that you had. You take Clemson's talent, you take Alabama's talent, and you could just see the separation happen. That's what fans want to start seeing for Clemson. They don't want to stay Miami's caliber.
First off, Drew, I need you to watch. Check yourself, young man, because there was one sports talk radio host here in the upstate that called Alabama to win the SEC and called Alabama to be a 3 seed at worst. In fact, there's one host here in the upstate, Drew, that put $2 on Alabama at like plus 8,000 preseason to make the Final Four, Drew. And I'm on the very, 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 very close edge to buy myself a very nice bottle of bourbon in about 2 weeks when Alabama's in the Final Four. Your boy nailed it, is all I'm saying. All right? Now,
well done.
Now, Joseph goes on to say they could easily get to the Sweet 16 or Elite 8, or they could lose to Rutgers by 20. That's the problem with Clemson. Yeah, it's inconsistency, and it's inconsistency at the highest level. It's inconsistency in the big games. A team that can go out there and knock off FSU and Alabama, a 4 seed and a 2 seed respectively, in the regular season, and look damn good doing so, but then can turn around and get beat by Miami in the ACC tournament. In an ACC tournament, by the way, which if they win that game, I got to tell you, I think they might have beat Florida State. I think they could have knocked off FSU and made it to the ACC finals again, but just didn't. And it's frustrating because I see how good that team can be, and I see that when they get into the biggest games of all, they stop. They just stop. They don't play to their level, and it's infuriating. It's exactly the question. Is this acceptable? Now, maybe we're having this conversation. Maybe we're having this conversation prematurely. Maybe we should gun to have this conversation in a week or 2 weeks when we see exactly where Clemson ends up in this tournament. I mean, if Clemson makes a run to the Elite Eight, hell, even the Sweet 16, I think we maybe change the way we talk about it. But if they get bounced by Rutgers or they get blown out by Houston in the second round, then we got a real problem. Then we got to discuss some stuff. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. My name's Rob Brown. Drew's at the controls. Thanks for hanging out, y'all. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate.
You're listening to the Rob Brown Show. Let the game come to you. Listen no matter where you go. In Anderson, Clemson, Greenville.
Thanks for joining us here on the stream. Y'all remember we do have the off-the-air conversations here on the stream. So if you got anything that you want to ask or talk about that's not on-air stuff, feel free to drop it in the comments, and we'll be more than happy to talk about it. Got my man Drew hanging out with us here today. Lonzo's on vacation for the week.
Next segment will be Harley Davidson promo, just FYI.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Keegan. Glad to be back in the Carolinas. You know, it's I had a conversation with a friend of mine on Saturday. There was a wedding on Saturday, and the reception was at a hotel that was right on the beach, like the little banquet room that the reception was in opened up to the beach out there behind the hotel. And when I was out there, in fact, here's I don't know if it'll come across on the screen. Yep, there you go. So there was from the wedding this weekend down on the beach at Destin. You see a little boardwalk right out there to the beach. I was talking with a young lady who was with her husband, who was a friend of mine from high school. And the conversation, so they're from Michigan, I think, Minnesota, somewhere in the Great White North. Anyway, we got to talking about it, and she said, I'm so glad we're down here. We've been on the beach. They stayed for the whole week, so they spent the whole week on the beach, nice and red and toasted and sunburnt. And anyway, they said, I don't know how anybody would live or could leave here, man. Like, we came down here for a week, and we're ready to go back up, put everything in boxes, and move here. Y'all, I spent 33 years living on the beach. After 33 years living on the beach, you've had about all the beach you can handle, man. I still like to go back, but I think in the year that I've lived here, I have gone to the beach more in the year that I lived here and have gone back home for different reasons. I have gone to the beach more times in the last year living here than I went to the beach when I lived in Destin and was 3 minutes away from the beach. Was a 10-minute walk to the beach.
20 seconds.
So it's, but I know people from here that grew up here, and I said I don't understand how anybody could be from here and leave.
The Rob Brown Show.
And they said, I've been here my whole life. It's all perspective, man.
Upstate.
All right, welcome back. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. 844-GSP. ESPN 844-477-3776 is the number. Let's get Tyler in here to talk a little Clemson shooty hoops. Tyler, thanks for taking a minute. Great to have you on the show, bud.
I appreciate it. So I'll tell you what, I'm a big Clemson fan, but I will not be surprised if Clemson loses their first game in the tournament. Back in the ACC tournament, that game, as soon as they stopped being able to hit the free ball, I think it was about 5 minutes into the second half, the body language of Brad Brownell and the players just got mopey. They just, it's almost like they gave up. And that starts at the top of Brad Brownell. I I've listened to his interviews for years. It just, class is always half empty. You know, he doesn't really come into interviews like, hey, my guys did this well, you know, they're starting to gel, et cetera. It's always pointing out the negatives. And I don't know, I feel like it painfully reminds me of the era of Tommy Bowden when he had the weapons around him, but just never really took the program to the next level and just kind of always settled for mediocrity. And then you get a guy in there like Dabo who just brings in that you know, the culture that he's developed. You know, and everyone's going to say, oh, well, Clemson's a football school. You know, they're not a basketball school. Well, why? Why not get a guy in there who can turn the culture around? Brad Brownell's had his chances. If they win this game, that's the frustrating thing, is that's going to be enough to keep him around. But that's what we've settled for is, hey, let's just get him to the next season, sign a new contract. We'll settle for a Sweet 16, et cetera. I don't know. My take is, you know, you really got to reevaluate it this year and maybe get another guy in there to turn things around.
You know, the thing about Brad Brownell, and I get the take you're coming from, and I'm really glad you brought that up because in the next hour, I actually have a thought that I had over the weekend that was pointed out about Dabo Swinney, and it's in direct opposition to Brad Brownell. I don't mind a coach who brings up the negative because I think the only way to address the negative is to state it, is to put it out there. Here's where we are coming up short and we need to work on it. And I'm good with that. The problem that I have is that I don't see growth from it when Clemson gets put into a pressure cooker, right? Like it's great that you can call out the negatives. And I go back and I look at that Clemson-Miami game. Clemson fought their hearts out in the first half of that game, I thought. I mean, they were, except for they were doing everything except the things that they do best, right? I pointed out the stat that with like 16, 15 minutes left in the first half, in the second half, the score was tied 41-41. Clemson was plus 18 from three-point land. Miami was plus 18 in the paint. And I'm going, wait a minute. Clemson should not have a Miami Hurricanes team plus 18 in the paint. And if you get the added boost of being plus 18 from the three-point line, you should be winning by 18 because you should be doing no worse than even with Miami from inside the paint. And then I said on Twitter that day, if the three-point shot gets away from Clemson, but they don't start cleaning up the glass and don't start dominating inside, which is where their strength lies here, they're going to lose this game. That's what happened. Second half, three-point shooting got away from them. Miami continued to dominate in the paint. Clemson ended up taking the L. It's one thing to call out the negative, Tyler. It's another thing to fix it. And that's the problem that I see, is that the big issue of Clemson not handling pressure well, I don't see them fixing it. And, you know, maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised in this tournament, but it's hard for me to pick Clemson knowing that I would be picking against what history says they will do in a big tournament.
Yeah, no, and you know, I hope they go on a run. You know, of course I do. But at the same time, like, I don't know. It seems like year after year, it's just a tough pill to swallow. Like you said, they had the makings in the ACC tourney. They had a great pass to excel, and they had the same pass in the NCAA tournament. You know, that 2 seed will be a tough matchup if they wind up getting that far, but. You know, it'll just be, I don't know. I have realistic expectations and I always remain, you know, just as optimistic as I can, but at the same time, I don't know, just I get a little frustrated.
Yeah.
I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Tyler. Thanks for jumping on board at 844 GSP ESPN. Look, if I was a Clemson fan, I'd be wildly frustrated. Team you guys have put together, to me, is better than a 7 seed. That's a 5 seed talent squad, maybe a 4 seed. You won some games during the season that proved to me that you are ready to go, that you are ready to take the jump. And when you had the opportunity, like I said, if you would have asked me to design the ACC tournament to give Clemson its best shot at the title, I don't think I could have drawn it up better than it felt. The cards were dealt for you guys to do great things in the ACC tournament. You just didn't do it. And it man, that had to hurt. If If I'm a Clemson fan, that had to be a painful ACC tournament exit. So now, if I'm you, and I understand a lot of people don't like the negativity, and like I said, opening up the next segment of the show, and it might get a bit controversial, but that's okay. I have a take on Dabo Swinney, and I think I have figured it out. I think I have figured out why it is that Clemson fans love Dabo Swinney and the rest of the country can't stand him. All right? I think I've figured it out, and I'm going to explain that to you to kick off the next hour of the show. But it's kind of in direct contrast to, and Tyler just pointed it out, to Brad Brownell, a guy who in press conferences says, here's what we did wrong. I don't have any issue with that. The issue I have is when you point out what you did wrong, and then you show up the next season and those same things are wrong. That's where you lose me. That's where the problem comes in. All right, 844-GSP, ESPN. Text line says, at ESPN, but Coach Brownell recruited all the talent you admire and is building a consistent program, which is more important than hit and miss seasons. Consistency in the program is great, Texter. Yeah, I agree with that. It is, and that's great. I want to be consistent. But if the team keeps falling apart in the biggest moments, if the team keeps coming up short in the biggest moments, what does it matter if you're consistently a 7 seed if you get bounced in the first round and second round every year, right? What does it matter? I made this argument years ago when I was down in Florida towards the end of Bobby Bowden's career, and they were going, oh, wait a minute. You know, Bobby's given us 9-3, 10-2 seasons every year. That's fine. If the goal of a season is to go 9-3, 10-2, then great. He's doing a great job. But if the goal is to win championships, he ain't the guy. And I'm not saying Brad Brownell's not the guy. I'm saying I have not seen the development of this team in high-pressure situations like I would want to see out of a guy that I believed was the guy. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute, wrap up hour 1 of the Rob Brown Show. This is ESPN Upstate.
And Harley-Davidson next.
Yep. You're listening to the Rob Brown Show. Listen on your Amazon or Google smart speaker. Just say, play ESPN Upstate.
Ladies, let me talk to you for just a minute. Especially those of you that ride. Those of you that love to be up on 2 wheels, and those of you that like to have your own rig. Harley-Davidson of Greenville is throwing a ladies-only garage party coming up in just a little over a week, March 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m. at Harley-Davidson of Greenville. The ladies-only garage party is for all the gals of the upstate that got their own rig, like to ride on their own. This day is for you. And ladies, even if you don't ride yet, if you are interested, as I roll around the upstate, I see more and more and more and more women riding. And it thrills me, man. I love it. I love it. That's why Harley-Davidson of Greenville is throwing the ladies-only garage party. It is an evening just for the gals. You can come out, meet other female riders. It doesn't matter if you currently ride, if you don't, but you want to learn how. This is a night for you. And they're going to have all kinds of stuff set up. They're going to have lessons, how to pick up your motorcycle if you're by yourself and it lays down. Learn how to change the oil in your bike. They'll be giving away swag bags. They're going to teach you how to pack for trips, gear demonstrations, door prizes, riding tips. Appetizers and refreshments are provided. And if you pre-register for the Ladies Only Garage Party, you will be entered to win a $25 gift card from Harley-Davidson of Greenville. Go to their website at upstateharley.com to get pre-registered and get your chance to win that $25 Harley-Davidson of Greenville gift certificate. Put it on the calendar. It is the Ladies Only Garage Party, March 23rd from 6 to 8 p.m. and only at Harley-Davidson of Greenville.
From the 106.3 WORD Weather Center, here's your Upstate's most trusted forecast on ESPN Upstate. High 57 this afternoon. Tonight, cloudy, low near 42 with areas of rain. More rain possible on Tuesday, high near 54, gusty winds. Tuesday night, slight chance of rain, low 47.
Drew, you left the stream, man.
On ESPN Upstate.
Let's see if I can jump
now,
back in.
That invite should still be good. Just stay calm, take deep breaths, take your time. It's more important to get it right than get it fast.
It's true.
And if you don't mind, when we're on the air and you have your headset on, if you will turn down the speaker volume in there.
Okay.
Just because it's I can speak through an echo, but it's like if every word's getting echoed, it throws me off just a touch.
I hear you. Yeah, I lost all volume during that last call.
I heard it. I heard him cut out. I don't know what happened, but he cut out for like a second and then came back.
Okay.
Damn, my back is popping like a machine gun. I'm getting old. Y'all on the stream, like I said, remember you can throw your comments into the stream. We can talk about it off the air. If it's on air pertinent, I will read it on the air as well. And for those of you watching in the future on YouTube or Facebook, welcome in. I appreciate it.
We're going to do a fill out your live or bracket live on air.
Yeah, we probably will. Probably tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay.
Yep.
That sounds like a
plan. Yeah, I want a day to really digest it.
I know. I wish it almost came out tonight, so today we could have projected seeds and stuff. The women's comes out tonight.
Yeah.
I know that's not a big talking point for most people, but I really like women's.
It is around here, obviously, with South Carolina being dominant. From what I understand, it's as long as you keep it kind of South Carolina focused, it does well here.
Yeah.
Don Staley's going to be a men's coach in the next 5 to 7 years. I'm afraid for South Carolina, they're going to end up losing her because she's going to get a chance to maybe at like a blue blood, like a big time school.
That'd be cool. I don't know how she'd do in the NBA though. I think men's college would be just a step enough.
Yeah. Raising Kane says, this is by far the coolest thing you guys have done. Always cool to see behind the screens. Yeah, man, we're happy to do it. I like it too. It's fun to be able to chat with you guys more than just on the air and have these conversations off of it. Is always fun, especially since we're kind of all over the place traditionally.
20 seconds.
Joseph Bryce says, I'd 100% take Dawn Staley at Clemson. Would you take her as the men's coach? I would. I absolutely would. I think this next generation of players is not going to have the concern about a women's coach as past generations.
The app and make ESPN Upstate a favorite for 24/7 real, unfiltered sports talk.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. Number one here on the show, 44 GSP ESPN is the number. 844 GSP ESPN. Certainly want you to join us, chat with us, have a little fun with us here on the broadcast. Join the stream at facebook.com/ESPN Upstate, twitter.com/The Rob Brown Show, or search The Rob Brown Show on YouTube. At Raising Cane said, this is by far the coolest thing you guys have done. Always cool to see behind the scenes. Yeah, that's why we did it, man. We want you guys to be more a part of the show than just passive listeners. So the stream is up so that you can watch Lonzo and I, or in this case, Drew and I, do the show. You can interact with us on breaks, ask us questions that maybe you don't want to ask on air or wouldn't be on air conversation. You can come to the stream, join us there, take a peek behind the scenes, and get a feel for how the show really works. We were talking during the break, the women's bracket is about to be released, and Drew asked if that was a topic of conversation here on the station. Now, this is obviously going to be the first year through that I get a tournament. I was here last year, but we didn't have the tournament on either side. From what I understand, yeah, I mean, South Carolina's women's basketball team is about as dominant of a program as you could possibly ask for them to be. And so I would assume that the women's tournament is absolutely a talking point, especially when Dawn Staley is running that program at as high of a level as she has been in the recent past. You know, we were talking during the break there, and I said that my biggest fear for the South Carolina athletics department is that sometime in the next 4 to 6 years, you're likely going to lose Dawn Staley because she is going to get the opportunity to go coach a Blue Bloods men's program and could potentially be in line for an NBA job down the road. I think that the next generation of players, and this is kind of an interesting topic to me anyway, Drew, I think the next generation of players on the men's side would be far more accepting of a women's coach than generations past have been. Here's your chance to win $1,000 in the $1,000 cash stash on ESPN Upstate. The key word for this upcoming hour is epic, EPIC, you know, like this show. It's epic, EPIC. Text that keyword to 72881, 72881, powered by BetQL. Let BetQL's proven data and analytics help you become a better. Download the BetQL app today. Text and data rates may apply in this national contest. Again, this hour's keyword is epic, EPIC. Text that word to 72881 for your chance to win $1,000 with the $1,000 cash dash on ESPN Upstate. Coming back for hour number 2 next on the Rob Brown Show. This is ESPN Upstate.
ESPN Upstate, WYRD Greenville, WORD Spartanburg.
There we go.
Number 2.
See, we didn't blow anything up. Nobody hurt themselves.
Picture perfect.
That's right. That's right.
I feel like I'm going to miss a lot of phone calls. Every time a phone call ring, I don't see this light as prominently as I thought I would.
Yeah.
And
if you can...
Lonzo would randomly point, and I had no idea what he was talking about. So now I don't have him to just, phone call. So if you do call in, keep calling, because I will see it. Last phone call was fantastic.
Do the best you can with it. If you need to move, like if you can push that light forward to where it's more obvious. I mean, if you need to move something around to make your job easier, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I think I got it now.
Okay. Wow. Pelicans went off last night, man. Knocked the Clippers off by almost 30. It would have been 30 plus, but they pulled the starters with like 8 minutes left to go because they were smoking the Clippers. Unbelievable win.
Okay, so you can't throw a football 90 yards like an NFL QB and get paid the big bucks?
I'm daring to be great right now.
No, No sweat. All you need is 2 ears, a texting finger, and your radio locked on ESPN Upstate. With a $1,000 cash stash. Listen every hour from 7A to 5P. Weekdays for the keyword. Then text it to 72881. Text and data rates apply in this national contest. You could be the winner of a big chunk of dough 11 times a day. Powered by BetQL. Let BetQL's proven data and analytics help you become a better. Download the BetQL app today. Warning.
And check this out.
For an official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Real, unfiltered sports talk manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Yeah.
Only on ESPN.
ESPN Upstate.
Our numerados of the Rob Brown Show is on your radio. This is ESPN Upstate. What is up? Upstate South Carolina. Boy, it is good to be home, man. Had a good time down there in Florida last week, but we back, man. Back in the Upstate, back here in South Carolina, and glad for it. I want to send a very special thanks out to all the ESPN Upstate management type who let me broadcast from down in Florida. I had back-to-back weddings the last 2 weekends that I was involved in, and instead of driving back-to-back weekends, they told me, "No, man, you're good. Just work down there. Just make sure you do your job." And I feel like we did the job. So thanks to you guys for staying with us. Let me go hang out and broadcast live from the Panhandle. But, man, it's good to be back home. Good to be back here in the Casa de Love, back here in the Upstate. All right, I want to bring up something that I recognized over the weekend about Dabo Swinney. I saw somebody kind of point this out a little bit on Twitter this weekend. And I got to thinking about it, and I extrapolated a bit, if you will, from what they had to say. And I found it very interesting. And so somebody had asked the question, why is it that Dabo Swinney is almost universally disliked outside of the upstate of South Carolina, outside of South Carolina? And one guy made a point that I kind of found interesting. And now that I am inside of the area and I've gotten to kind of witness it firsthand, I don't think it's that far off base. All right. And here's what it is. And I'm bringing this up because of the contrast that was made about Brad Brownell earlier. We had Tyler call in, and Brownell said, Tyler said, Brownell's a guy that gives the impression of dwelling on the negative, right? When you do the press conferences, Brownell ordinarily just kind of jumps straight into discussions about what went wrong and doesn't talk about what went right. And it led me down the same course of thought that I was going down over the weekend. And it is this. Dabo Swinney is an unrelenting, unapologetic, 100% silver lining focused optimist and nothing else but. And there are two types of people, well, I guess three types of people in this world. There's optimist, there's pessimist, and there are realist. I have taken heat in this role, in this job here in the past, because I am above anything else a realist. That is to say, if I see something wrong with the program, I will call it out. Not because I dwell on the negative, but because, as you will learn if you go through any betterment program, the very first step in trying to move past and get better is to identify what is wrong and identify the steps that you are going to take. When South Carolina was in the process of hiring Shane Beamer, I pointed out the things about Shane Beamer that I had a problem with. No head coaching experience, no coordinator experience, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I talked about the positives. That's why we had Steven Garcia, former Gamecock quarterback, on the show. A guy that loved the hire, to talk about all the things that he liked about the hire, but I did focus on the negative. Not that that's all I talked about, but it is what I spent a lot of time focused on because, again, I think you have to address the negative in order to fix it and move on. Dabo Swinney is an unrelenting, unapologetic, silver lining focused optimist. And I think he's that way about everything in his life. And I will tell you that it's easy to be okay with that when he's being an optimist about you. When somebody comes into your house and tells you all the good things about you, human nature says, we like it. We accept it. We want more of it. I am never going to cut a caller who calls into the show to tell me how good I am at my job, how much they enjoy the show. Why? Because I like it. Because I have an ego, whatever you want to call. Because I like it. It is what it is. It is much harder to listen when people are telling you the things that are wrong, the things that are negative. Dabo Swinney is a guy who is always focused on the positive. Always. Without fail, focused on the positive. I'll give you a couple of examples. This year, after Clemson loses to Ohio State, after Clemson gets blown out of the water by Ohio State, Dabo goes into his post-game press conference. And Dabo's talking about the game. And what does Dabo say? Does Dabo talk about the game? No. Does he talk about the L's? No. Does he talk about what went wrong? No. What does he talk about? He talks about how it's incredible that they were there, and it's incredible they got to play, and how everybody thought this season wasn't going to happen, and he's just happy that they were able to get to the point, that they were able to play the game. He's just talking about the fact that he was happy to have his team down there in NOLA playing that game. Didn't address the fact that the defense was bad. He did later, but that night he didn't. Give you a second example. And this example is one that's off the football field. And this example is one I think that's a little more controversial. During the BLM protest, Dabo Swinney was the guy that just kind of seemed to have an attitude. And I know that this isn't fully the attitude because I was here watching it play out in real time. But he kind of had the attitude of, well, can't we just focus on the positives? Can't we focus on that? You know, he wore the shirt. He got in a little bit of heat because he wore a T-shirt. A T-shirt, by the way, and I defended him because it's a T-shirt that he had worn in the past. It's a T-shirt I've seen a lot of coaches wear. He just happened to wear it at a really bad time that said football matters, at a point in time where the Black Lives Matter movement was at its crescendo. And people started showing up and saying, oh, he's out of touch. He doesn't get it. He's not on the same page. Yada, yada, yada. And I don't think that's the case, okay? Far be it from me to defend Dabo Swinney, but I will here for a moment. I don't think that's the case. I just genuinely don't think that Dabo Swinney likes to dwell on the negative. And we have reached a point, and I believe this, as do a lot of other folks. We have reached a point where we say, hey, in order to move on past the negatives, they must be addressed. You cannot move past the topic without addressing it. And that includes things that make people uncomfortable, whether it's on a football team or in real life. You have to address the things that are going wrong, the things that make people uncomfortable. You have to address the things that are hurtful, that are disappointing, in order to recognize them, realize them, and start to fix them and be ready to move forward. And Dabo doesn't really do that publicly. Brad Brownell is the opposite. It's the first thing that he points out, which is, to me, a good thing. I don't want a coach who never addresses the negative. I don't want a coach who only focuses on the positive. There are a lot of people who gravitate to that, all right? not to speak of him while he is not here. But to some degree, Lonzo's one of those guys, which is great because he counterbalances me, who tends to focus on the negative first. Lonzo's a guy that focuses on the positive first and in a big way. There are people who gravitate towards the folks that go to the positive first and sometimes only. And that's why Dabo Swinney has recruited his brains out, because there are players that gravitate towards nothing's ever wrong, everything's great, we're a family, we're going to fix it, we're good. There are people who gravitate towards that. And then there are people who don't, especially when that person is saying all the good things, all the positive things, but it's about somebody else, right? That's why Dabo is a guy that outside of South Carolina gets railed on, gets cracked on quite a bit. I had a friend of mine, as a matter of fact, who's an Alabama fan, surprisingly. Alabama fan during the offseason this year. Dabo Swinney's racist because he doesn't acknowledge Black Lives Matter, and he doesn't want the Black Lives Matter patch on the jersey, and he wore the Football Matters shirt during the Black Lives Matter crescendo. He's racist. To which I said, no, bro. It's absolutely not. There's not a thing about Dabo Swinney that I think is racist. Do I think he's out of touch sometimes with the discussion that's taking place societally? Yeah, I do. But he's not alone in that. And I don't think he's racist. And I can point to the fact, the evidence to support that. Y'all know I'm evidence-driven above faith-driven in everything. The evidence to that point is that when that protest was hitting its crescendo, what did Dabo do? He let his players be at the forefront. Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne and all these guys were out there organizing and leading BLM marches on the campus at Clemson. When Dabo said, I'm not really big on patches or designs being added to the jersey because the jersey is the jersey, the helmet is the helmet, and we should keep it to other aspects of advertising, for lack of a better word. He said, but I'm going to let the team decide. And the team decided to have those jersey patches, and so they did, right? I don't think there's a shred of evidence that says that Dabo Swinney is racist at all. In fact, I think there's plenty of evidence to the contrary. But Dabo's a guy that always wants to look on the bright side first and foremost, and without fail. Brad Brownell's not. So it makes sense to me that if Dabo has gotten you used at Clemson, has gotten you used to always being the optimist, if Dabo has gotten you used to things always being good, if Dabo has gotten you used to the silver lining being the thing you look at first, then it makes sense that Brad Brownell would rub you the wrong way. I like Brad Brownell. Seems like a nice guy. Seems to be a guy the players love. He's a good coach. The criticism of Brad Brownell for me is very much a one-trick pony. In the biggest games, at the biggest moments, his teams get away from him. At the biggest games, in the biggest moments, his teams get away from their game and they fall. And that is it. The problem for Brad Brownell is that is a major problem. Again, somebody asked over the weekend, well, if getting to a 7th seed in the in the NCAA tournament isn't good enough, what is? I don't know, winning those games. Winning those games. Not getting bounced by Miami in your first game in the ACC tournament, not getting bounced by Miami and ending up in a spot when the tournament bracket was set up for you to win a crown, not getting bounced in the opening round. That's good. That's a step. That's a step. But Clemson is basically 0 for my memory in the ACC tournament. Now you got a real good chance in the NCAA tournament for Brad Brownell to take a step forward. Why? Because the bracket, again, just like it was in the ACC tournament, is set up beautifully for them. It's set up beautifully for them. Biggest challenge they'll reach in the path to the Elite Eight is a number 2 Houston team that's a good but beatable team. You got the worst 2 seed in the draw in your side of the bracket. You should make the Sweet 16. You could make the Elite Eight. There's a better than good chance that you're not set up with a decent effort at the Final Four. You're coming out of that bracket in the Midwest with Illinois, and a good Illinois team, Big Ten champion Illinois team. But the Elite Eight's not impossible. Syracuse, San Diego State, West Virginia, Morehead State, Rutgers, Houston, and Cleveland State. Houston's the best team in there, and there's not another team in that entire bracket that I look at and don't think Clemson could beat if they're playing their best game. Dabo gets annoying to people because it's always the bright side. It's never the negative. Brad Brown knows the other way. A lot of the time it's the negative. But can he fix it? He addresses it. But can he fix it? 844-GSP-ESPN, 844-477-3776. Text us at 71307, 71307 at ESPN. A couple of texts that have come in at 71307 at ESPN. I know why we love Dabo Swinney. Because he built a program with the proper foundation, with a strength of character, ignoring the background noise of whiners and criers. Just as, all right, I'm not going to go into the politics side of that, all right? If you want to compare it to presidents past and future, that's fine. Yes, Dabo's a guy that focuses on character. In fact, he just had a guy leave the program because the character didn't match up to what he wanted. And that's fine. That's fine. And it's a strength. I agree with you. It's a strength. You are not wrong. But it doesn't take away from the fact that Dabo does seem, I'm wondering how many recruits, and this is anything you can prove, right? But hypothetically speaking, I'm wondering how many recruits might have come to Clemson, but Dabo's silence to the point of what I heard one other host in the area refer to as tone deafness to the cultural conversation turned them off. And more importantly, I wonder if it matters. I doubt it. At ESPN, sometimes the discussion itself is so far out of touch that it's just better to stay away from it. Definitely not something you want to be involved with in 10 years. I'm not sure which discussion that you are talking about here, right? I'm not sure which discussion you are talking about. If you're talking about, for instance, the Black Lives Matter discussion, I don't know. There are a lot of players who want to coach, who they feel has their back. And many players, some I've talked to, feel like a coach not being willing to have their back in that discussion is the same as not having their back. It's great to have the guys back on the field. They want a coach who has their back off of it as well. Some players, maybe not the guys in Clemson. I'll tell you this. I'm not even in that discussion. In fact, I repeatedly, vocally applauded Dabo Swinney for allowing his players to organize and lead marches on campus. A lot of coaches would not have done that. Dabo did. Dabo said, if you guys are called to do that, if you are compelled to do that, then go do it. And Dabo marched in one of them, right? So I don't even think the tone deafness thing really stands on its own because Dabo was in one of those marches. There are some discussions you don't want to be a part of. And there are some that your players want you to be. Dabo did a great job with that, in my opinion. This is more of an overarching thing. At ESPN, I'm not a Clemson fan. As a former coach and elementary principal, I always focus on the positive, especially in public. My comment to my people was always, let's keep our dirty laundry in-house. I would prefer to play to a coach who wants to be positive than negative. I get that. But the argument that I make here is this. And as a former coach as well, not at a collegiate level, obviously. Not any higher than like 9th grade high school. But the only way to address the negative, or the only way to fix the negative, is to address it first. The only way to fix the negative is to address it. Now, if you're saying that the negative should be addressed but not in public, I don't know, man. As a media member, I want coaches and players to speak openly and honestly. I want them to tell us what they think went wrong for the fans' sake. But maybe that's just me. All right, 844-GSP-ESPN, 844-477-3776 is the number. Text us at 71307. Start your text with ESPN. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. My name is Rob Brown. My man Drew at the helm. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate.
You're listening to the Rob Brown Show. Listen on your Amazon or Google smart speaker. Just say, play ESPN Upstate.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on ESPN Upstate.
Yeah, I don't know what to do about the healthcare thing. I don't have any pre-recorded uploaded. So
not on us, dude.
Yep. So, shorter break. Just
are you in contact with Lonzo at all?
Yeah, I can be.
I'll text him after the show. I'll call him and tell him because he should have put some recorded ones in there.
Because I know he'll try to walk me through while the show is going on, and I just
we'll hang out till the end of the show, and I'll tell him, and then he can make it good later.
Yeah, sounds good. Do you want a preview of Twitter trending topics so we are on the same page?
Nope.
Okay.
My the whole premise of that segment is that I have no idea what's coming up.
Because I'll be honest, last week I tried to guess what Lonzo was going to say, and I was completely wrong.
Nope. So you can use either the trending locally or trending nationally, whichever one you want. I don't really care.
Okay.
And just pull your favorite ones. The only rule is we try to avoid the political ones unless they are absolutely unavoidable, right? So, like, obviously, like on election day, that's obviously unavoidable. Yeah. We avoid the political ones if they are all avoidable, and obviously not avoid adult topics per se. But like if they're explicitly graphic, like there was one trending this morning that absolutely could not be read,
right?
Because it had a word in it that just was not radio appropriate. But like if for an example, if WAP is trending because of the performance at the Grammys last night and that's trending, we can attack that one as long as you're not saying the words. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Also, do me a favor, and I hate to ask because I know I'm sounding like I'm going to be a pain in the butt. When we get callers and all that, will you message me on my personal Facebook instead of my radio page?
Let me bring up the personal.
Yeah, just because that actually, if you send it to my business page, it doesn't come to my phone. But if you send it to my personal, it will, and I'll have a better chance of seeing it on two screens than one.
Yep, sounds like a plan.
Thanks, buddy.
Yep.
Sorry to be so demanding. I'm such a diva.
It's your show. I got to roll with it. $30 seconds.
Hey, Roberto!
Sorry, I just turned off the mic. He said, "What's up?"
Tweet at The Rob Brown Show on the Upstate Sports Leader, ESPN Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate. Rob, Drew sitting in for Lonzo this week. Lonzo out on the old well-earned, well-deserved vacation. So you get Drew in here with us today. Off on Friday. I'll be off on Friday. We will have NCAA tournament games for you on Friday with round one getting underway. We got our Thursday night playing games. Round one starts on Friday. We'll have all that for you here on ESPN Upstate. Couple of texts that have come in over the break. Joe texts in and says Clemson made it to the finals of the ACC tournament last year. Then the Rona shut up. That's right. They were on the floor set to play FSU last year before the ACC tournament conference was canceled. FSU, by way of being the ACC's regular season champs, were awarded the conference championship because of it. And you're right. I like I said, we had a text earlier that said building the foundation, and I'm not taking away from that. I'm not saying Clemson needs to be in the ACC tournament finals every year. I'm saying I just need more consistent performances. If you want to chalk off that L to Miami as a one-off, that will be fine if Clemson makes a run in the NCAA tournament coming up this weekend. If Clemson makes a run, then I can go back and I can go, okay, let's mark that Miami L off as a one-off loss, as a bad loss, but a one-off loss. If they make a run, then I promise you my tune about Brad Brownell will change dramatically towards next year. It absolutely will. Right now, I'm a little soured. I'm not all out, right? I know there are some folks here in the upstate that are calling for Dabo to be fired. I am not. I mean, not Dabo, excuse me, Brad Brownell to be fired. I'm not in that group. I promise you. I'm not ready for that. A good run in the tournament, a Sweet 16 run in the tournament, would be a huge step into quieting the haters, if you will. That's how I feel about it. A good run will go a long way. A good run chalks that Miami L up as an oops-a-daisy and not that's what Clemson is.
So what's a good run? If they beat Houston and then lose to West Virginia, was that a good run?
I would argue it depends on how it plays out, right? I mean, if they beat Rutgers, if they beat Houston, they make it to the Sweet 16. I got to tell you, if they can make it to the Sweet 16, Drew, I give them a shot against West Virginia too. I mean, West Virginia is a good team at the 3 seed, but if they can beat Houston, they can beat West Virginia. They can beat Huggy Bear and Co.
Okay, so if they beat West Virginia, that was a good run. There's no way they beat Illinois, in my opinion.
No, I agree with that. Illinois is the best team on that side of the bracket. Illinois is the best team in the Midwest and the best team, arguably. I don't know if they're the best team in the Big Ten, but they look damn good this weekend. Illinois is a very tough out. Illinois is my Final Four team out of that side. I hate to go chalk because some 1 seeds are going to go down. I think Michigan's got a better chance of losing over in the East than Illinois does. Honestly, after what I saw out of Baylor taking a couple of L's, Baylor 22-2. It's hard to pick against them. But if there's a number one that's going to fall, Ohio State is the 2 seed out there in the South, has a good chance at beating Baylor if Ohio State's fully healthy by the time they go up against Baylor in the Elite Eight. Illinois is a tough out. I don't see anybody out of that side of the bracket beating Illinois. A Clemson run to the Elite Eight, Drew, I'd be thrilled with. A Clemson run to the Sweet 16 would be everything that I would need to go, okay, as far as I'm concerned, Brad Brownell has erased that Miami lost and given me a little bit more optimism moving forward.
And once again, if it's a matchup against Syracuse rather than West Virginia, if Syracuse beats West Virginia and Clemson goes against Syracuse and then loses to Syracuse, once again, that sourness is going to come back full force. Yeah,
Syracuse is an interesting team, right? Syracuse is an interesting team. We saw them in the ACC tournament, a couple of wins, and then they came up against a Carolina team that was arguably the hottest team coming into this tournament before they got cooled off by FSU in the semifinals. But again, Syracuse had a good run in the ACC tournament. They're 16-9. They're not an unbeatable team. Clemson 16-7 and has some good Q1 wins. So, like I said, Sweet 16 run to knock off Syracuse to move to the Elite Eight. I would say this. Clemson's ceiling is the Elite Eight because Illinois is a buzzsaw right now. All right? Now, Clemson's got some size. If they play their best game inside out, maybe they can upset a 23-6 Illini squad. Maybe. But Clemson in the Elite Eight, Drew, I think erases that Miami loss without a doubt.
Without a doubt. But if I'm looking at the tournament, I almost want to pull for West Virginia to win, because at least if you lost to a number 3 seed, you felt better than losing to Syracuse again. So,
well, but again, that's under the assumption Syracuse gets by. If Syracuse loses or knocks off West Virginia, and I think the team we're leaving out here is the 23 and 4 San Diego State Aztecs up there too.
San Diego State is for real. Yeah.
That's not a bad little squad. Whether it's the 6, 11 or the 3 seed, I mean, Clemson's nightmare, and I think you're right. Clemson's nightmare is to get by Rutgers, the 10 seed, get by Houston, the 2 seed, and then out of those 4 teams on the top half of the bottom half of the Midwest bracket, to have Syracuse escape and lose to the Orange. That would be the nightmare. Having San Diego State, the 6th seed, knock off Cuse and West Virginia, Morehead State. I mean, I guess the 14 seed in Morehead State would be a nightmare too. You want Morehead State to find a way through that because you want the worst team coming out of there. But if they were to lose to San Diego State or West Virginia in a good game, right? If they go out there and get blown out, we're talking a different story. But if they go out there and they lose a 2-point buzzer beater game, you might go, okay, well, 7 seed, they hit their ceiling, close to it. But again, I look at the talent on this squad between Trapp and Dawes and some of the inside-out players they have with the ability. We've seen it. We saw it in the first half against Miami to knock down the 3 for Clemson to supplement the paint play, not replace it, but to supplement it. There's not a team on that bottom half of that bracket that Clemson can't beat. They may not be favored in every game, Drew, but there's not a team in the bottom half of that bracket that Clemson can't beat when they're playing their A game. I don't
favor them in any of those games. I don't favor them against Rutgers. I know they're the higher seed, but Rutgers to me has had a better experienced season this season against better teams. Clemson can do it, but I don't know. That's a tough game for them right off the starting of the tournament here.
I would favor them over Rutgers. I would favor them over Cleveland State. I would favor them over Morehead State. I would favor them over Syracuse. I will take them as probably a 4-point dog against San Diego State. I'd take them as an 8-point dog against West Virginia. And I'm happy calling the Rutgers game a push. I'm happy calling an even line on Rutgers. Now, I'll look up the Vegas odds in that Rutgers game in a second. I should have done that before the segment here started. But what I'm saying isn't I would take them as a favorite in every game. I'm saying there's none of those teams that aren't beatable by Clemson if they bring that same game that they used to beat, for instance, the 4-seed FSU a couple of weeks ago. They bring that game, they can beat anybody on that side of the bracket. In fact, they bring that game, let's see, up on the top half, they beat Liberty. Oklahoma State's hot. I'd probably take the Cowboys. They can beat Oregon State. They can Tennessee would be a game. Georgia Tech would be a game. Though I think, Georgia Tech just got hot. And remember, Georgia Tech got the bye in the semifinals, so they were much fresher taking on FSU. If they come up against Clemson, they'll be, 4 games deep at that point. And then, I'd take them as a favorite over Loyola Chicago, a favorite over Drexel. The only dog I think they'd be a big dog to will be Illinois. So there you go.
Taking a look at the spread, it looks like Rutgers is favored by 1.5 points.
I don't love it. Don't love it. In fact, I'll even go so far. I'll say Clemson to cover that. I'll take Clemson to win and cover in round 1. Question's going to be, what about Houston round 2? All right, real quick, I want to get this text in because I don't want the texter to think I'm ignoring. Texas 71307. Start your text with ESPN so we can read them on the air. Texter says, this is the same texter who texted earlier. Here, I'll read you their whole text, all right? So you can get the context of what we're talking about here. When we were talking about Dabo Swinney, right, I said that I think people are looking for other people to express discontent, dissatisfaction with certain things that are going on, right? And Dabo doesn't do that very often and very publicly. Texter says, I know why we love Dabo Swinney, because he built a program with the proper foundation, with a strength of character, ignoring the background noise of whiners and criers, just as President Donald J. Trump did, building an economy for all to flourish. I didn't read the second half because I don't discuss political candidates or political office holders unless they are directly connected to a story that impacts sports. That's the only reason. He says, it's sad you exude your political bias, but silence the counterbalance I gave. Censorship is an obscenity you were endorsing, I guess. I have one rule. I don't bring up political candidates or politicians unless they are involved in a story that directly relates to sports. What you said to me does not. I gave your opinion. I read your opinion. I left out the part about President Donald J. Trump building the economy because that's a very complicated topic that not everyone agrees on. I have not turned away a phone call from people who have called in to speak against the Black Lives Matter movement, speak against the protests, speak against athletes being involved in speaking out. I've never turned down that phone call. So you can say that you were censored if you want, but you're wrong. No one has been censored on this show. I didn't read a text that you directly referred to one political person, of which I have also not brought up any other. I have not talked about the current president since he took office at all, despite him probably ultimately down the road going to be connected to a lot of stories in the world of sports. I have not talked about a senator, a congressman, some from this state. I have done none of that. I don't bring up politicians unless they are directly connected to a sports story we're discussing. I read your opinion all the way through up until the point that you broke the only rule that I have. I have never turned down a phone call with people talking about athletes speaking up and speaking out against those athletes. I have never turned down any of the calls from people who disagree with me on Colin Kaepernick or the marches that went on with the athletes this summer. And sorry to those of you on the stream. I just realized that I did not have my face up on the stream. I know you tuned in to look at me. I apologize. I've never turned those phone calls down. So your take is demonstrably wrong. Quick break. Back after this, the Rob Brown Show rolls on. It's ESPN Upstate.
You're listening to the Rob Brown Show. Listen on your computer and tablet at espnupstate.com.
Yeah, I apologize to those of you on the stream. I did not know, and Drew, I got the audio coming back to me. If you don't mind cutting that, bud, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, sir. To those of you on the stream, so during the breaks, I will frequently minimize my screen, predominantly lately, because I am using for whatever reason, man. I had an allergy attack about a week ago, and when I talk, I sometimes start to get a nasal buildup, and so I close the screen as I'm about to and mute the mic for a second so I can blow my nose or take Afrin or whatever I got to do without you guys having to watch and listen to me jam plastic tubes up my nose. So that's why I sometimes go small screen.
Yep, we appreciate that, but the alternative here is not that much better.
I don't know, man. You got the good hair.
What's that?
Said, I don't know. You got the good hair.
Yeah. I got my quarterly haircut last week.
Quarterly haircut.
Like bro. Lonzo did not get a haircut at all in 2020. He's getting his biannual haircut this coming week or today, maybe on his vacation. Busy vacation for Lonzo. He's going to get a haircut, maybe change the oil, run to the bank. It's good stuff.
Lonzo's vacation is like my Tuesday.
It's kind of like my grandmother's schedule. I was talking to my dad about that. He asked, what did you do today? And she says, I went to the bank. Had to knock that out. That's all she does. She'll do one thing, and that's it.
Thanks for hanging out on the stream, by the way, y'all that are watching with us. If you got anything you want us to read on the air or off of it, feel free to drop it in the comments on any of the platforms that you are watching. Houston, BPI has Houston at a 24% chance to make the title, which is ridiculously high to me. I mean, they're a good team, but I wonder what Illinois is. It's got to be above 24.
$30 seconds.
Game come to you. Listen no matter where you go. In Anderson, Clemson, Greenville, and Spartanburg. ESPN Upstate is always streaming on the radio.com app.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. This is ESPN Upstate at ESPN. Yeah, Rob, you commie liberal. You figured me out. I'm a communist liberal. You got me. Just right on the head. 844-GSP ESPN, 844-477-3776. Remember, coming up in about, we'll call it 14 minutes from now, I am going to have your key word for your chance to win $1,000 from the cash grab from ESPN, the ESPN Cash Stash. You still have some time to text this hour's keyword EPIC, EPIC to 72881 for your chance to win $1,000 in the $1,000 cash stash on ESPN Upstate. Text EPIC, EPIC to 72881 for your chance to win $1,000. Coming up at the top of the next hour, my farewell message to Drew Brees. And yes, I know that I'm in Panthers territory. And you're just all going to have to bear with me for just a minute as a Saints fan who has watched Drew Brees play under my colors for the past 15 years, officially called it a career, and I got some things to say about it. So that's coming up to open up the next hour of the show. So we're taking your thoughts, we're taking your calls, we're taking your comments here on the program today about where you see college basketball and where you see the Clemson Tigers right now. We have talked about the draw. Interesting during the break. I think there's a lot of people that are much higher on the Houston Cougars than I am. And look, this is a good Houston squad. I am not taking away from what this Houston squad has accomplished. It's a very, very good Houston team, but the guard play they have, to me, I think can be negated. And we've seen Clemson do it this year by taking advantage, by playing to the strength, which is the inside out game, which is owning the paint, which is owning the glass, which is preventing the other team from speeding up the game. We saw them do it a number of times this season. We know they're capable of it. Can they do it when the spotlight is going to shine the brightest? So we're going to keep talking about that. We'll obviously do a full game breakdown as we get closer to Friday and Saturday, the kickoff. We got our playing games on Thursday night before we get to round one on Saturday. Let's do this. Let's run to a break real quick and get back on the clock. When we come back here in just a minute, there was a game yesterday that was as good as we have seen all season long, And if this type of game is the standard that we expect to see in the NCAA tournament, then I think we're going to be in good shape. But what was really interesting is what happened pregame of the SEC Basketball Championship. We'll break that down next. My name is Rob Brown. My man Drew back at the helm. You're listening to, and if you're joining us on the stream at facebook.com/ESPN Upstate, watching the Rob Brown Show right here on, well, ESPN Upstate.
You're listening to the Rob Brown Show. Listen on your Amazon or
you got
Google
Prisma
smart
Health.
speaker. Just say play ESPN Upstate.
Tell you a little bit about my friends at Prisma Health. Why? Because Prisma Health is not just the official healthcare provider for the Clemson Tigers and South Carolina Gamecocks, but they want to be the official healthcare provider of you and your family now. They are committed to your safe care if you need healthcare from the more than 2,400 medical providers within the Prisma Health Network. They not only want to make sure that your healthcare is taken care of in the best way possible, but they want to make sure that you are safe when you receive the healthcare. Their hospitals and physicians are practicing and taking every precaution to protect you and your team, your family, from COVID-19 as we move through, hopefully, fingers crossed, the end of this pandemic. Prisma Health is not only dedicated to fighting the fight against it, but to making sure that all your other healthcare needs, just because we're in the midst of the pandemic, does not mean that those of you that are in need of help in your fight against cancer or healthcare issues or orthopedic needs or just general primary care health did not have health issues as well. They want to look after you in every way possible. You can learn more and find a doctor and schedule an appointment by going to their website at prismahealth.org. Prismahealth.org. Learn how they are helping fight the coronavirus and can continue to help you with all of your health care needs. It's prismahealth.org. Prisma Health right here in the Upstate. Oh, man. Give me some golf in this weekend. Pretty excited about that. Those of you in the chat from the Upstate, if you got a favorite golf course, do me a favor and drop it in the chat, because I'm looking for some courses to play this weekend. Let's see. What else do we have? We've got Drew Brees coming up to start the next hour. more basketball. Cannot wait for Friday. Round 1. Going to be, as the kids say, epic. What time is that Clemson game? Four games Thursday. We kick off at 12:15 on Friday with the Gators and the Hokies. Colgate and Arkansas. Clemson will play. Where are they? Friday at 9:20 p.m. The late night game, baby. Don't hate that.
I'll be right in the middle of my night shift.
What do you do at nights?
At nights, I work at the BMW plant. So
Nice.
yeah, I get about 3 hours of sleep before this show, and 3 hours of sleep after the show. So I have to catch up on my hour pregame.
I heard that,
pre-show
Bubba.
prep. Figure out what happened. So that SEC game, I was only able to catch a little bit of it, especially the end on the radio. But it was fun.
It's a damn good game.
I really thought Alabama would win by like,
dude,
9 points. Maybe
that LSU team is not a bad team.
Crap. We're back.
First.com.
Join the Rob Brown Lockdown on Twitter. Tweet at The Rob Brown Show on the Upstate Sports Leader, ESPN Upstate.
So yesterday afternoon, we had a matchup between LSU and Alabama. Alabama, I told you, is a Final Four team for me. Called them preseason as a surprise. They weren't a surprise to me, but I told you they were going to surprise some of y'all by being there late in the season. Hashtag nailed it. But before they made to the ACC or to the NCAA tournament, they made the SEC tournament. They made it to the final. They took on an LSU team that is not deep at all, but is very good across the front five. And they had a phenomenal matchup. But check out what happened before the game even got started between the Crimson Tide and Alabama. It was a very, very interesting start to the game. ESPN's Marty Smith, and this audio comes courtesy of ESPN. ESPN's Marty Smith was on the sideline for this SEC tournament final, and listen to what went down between LSU and Alabama before the game even tipped. Hashtag rivalries.
Go Tigers is a heated rivalry on the football field, but let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it is on fire on the hardwood here today in Nashville as well. Take a look here at pregame. This is Bill Armstrong, an assistant for LSU there in white. Antoine Petway from Alabama. They start jawing a little bit. Other assistants start to get involved in it. Now here come the players. You'll see Javonte Smart over here for LSU up top, clapping his hands. John Petty for Alabama. The jawing continues, gets a little bit more heated, and then into the fray comes SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey and several of his staff members to help quell the heated pregame. Right here during pregame, you see LSU head coach Will Wade and Nate Oates, the head coach at Alabama, shaking hands and laughing it off a little bit. You got to love the intensity here in Nashville. And guys, I just reached out to the commissioner for comment on what he saw, and this is what he texted me back. Talk, all talk. The players were fine. Sometimes it's the adults that aren't. After all it's taken to get to this point, it's time to play the game, not talk.
So there you have it. That was what happened before the SEC tournament game between Alabama and LSU. The coaches getting into it just a little bit, jawing around, talking a little smack. And, the players came out. The players ended up having to be separated. LSU got a last chance opportunity at the buzzer, but could not find the bottom of the cylinder. So Alabama walks out of there as your SEC champion. LSU still makes the tournament despite falling in that one. But Drew, I got to tell you, brother, You give me some intensity like that where the coaches are getting after it, the players are getting after it, the freaking commissioner of the conference and his staff have to get out to midcourt to start pushing these guys away. I got to tell you, man, if this tournament, after a year of not playing the tournament, after a year of not having postseason college basketball, if these teams are bringing that level of intensity to the tournament, we going to be set up just fine on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Ain't no joke about it.
And just at the end of the game, this isn't on Twitter trending topics or anything, but it is shown a lot on Twitter here recently of Nate Oates having some choice words caught live. So it's not over in the years to come. That's kind of exciting. And Alabama, I mean, they had killed LSU the last 2 games. So the fact that Alabama was so fired up, it's kind of like, why? I didn't expect Alabama to lose this game at all, but they had some words.
And I got to tell you, talk about rivalry. Those 2 teams are both in the East bracket. There might be an Elite 8 date rematch for Alabama and LSU. All right, it's time for somebody to win a grand. Here's your chance to win a grand in the $1,000 cash dash on ESPN Upstate. The keyword for the upcoming hour is neighbor. Neighbor. Neighbor, the guy that lives next to you is your neighbor. Neighbor. Text that keyword, neighbor, to 72881. 72881. Powered by BetQL. Let BetQL's proven data and analytics help you become a better. Download the BetQL app today. Text and data rates may apply in this national contest. Again, this hour's keyword is neighbor. Neighbor. It's the $1,000 cash dash on ESPN Upstate. Text it to 72881, and if you win, buy me a beer. Quick break when we come back.
ESPN Upstate, WYRD Greenville, WORD.
No, that's on me. That's on me.
CFM HD3 Greenville, radio.com sports station.
Of course, next hour.
AutomotiveMap.com presents the Sports Flash on ESPN Upstate.
The NCAA men's basketball tournament.
I like that. I say repeatedly, turn the audio off for me if you don't mind. Nope, you're good. No worries. I love that I say 3 times text 72881, and every time I read it, our text line goes crazy with people texting that word in.
Yep.
Money.
And neighbor's going to be spelled 4 different ways.
Right? Naybur. Neighbor. 'Furman and Clemson are both top notch. Also like Brookstone and Anderson and the Preserve at Verde. I've played the Preserve. That's a beautiful course, Joseph. Is Furman open, taking tee times? I'd love to play Furman. I heard it's beautiful. I have to call afterwards.
Next hour we have QC Kinetics.
All right.
$30 seconds.
All right.
Warning.
And check this out.
You're on official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Real, unfiltered sports talk manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This This is the Rob Brown Show.
Yeah.
Only on ESPN.
ESPN Upstate.
Hour numerados. Nope, number 3. Oh, my goodness. We're at hour 3 already. What happened? What happened? Out of town for a week, and my whole sense of time is all screwed up. Hour number 3 of the Rob Brown Show is right here on the radio. This is ESPN Upstate. Rob, Drew, filling in for Lonzo on the 1s and 2s today. Be a part of the show and talk to Drew when you call in at 844-GSP-ESPN, 844-477-3776. Want to remind you that the $1,000 cash dash on ESPN Upstate is active. Your keyword for this hour is neighbor, NEIGHBOR, neighbor. And you have to text 72881. Do not text our text line at 71307 because you won't be entered. You have to text their text line at 72881. 72881. Text the keyword neighbor for your chance to win $1,000 on the $1,000 cash dash on ESPN Upstate. 72881 is the number for your chance to win. So, I'm going to take just a second to do a me time. All right. I'm going to do some me time here. Drew Brees announced yesterday. I'm driving in the car on the way back from the FLA. And, you know, one of the things I like to do is as I flip through areas, I like to listen to different sports talk stations from throughout Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, until I get back into the ESPN Upstate listening area. And as I'm driving home yesterday, the news breaks that Drew Brees has officially announced his retirement. And I will tell you that it had me, as the kids say, all up in my feels for just a minute. All up in my feels. So, it took me a second to realize why I was so damn emotional about this guy retiring. And this segment is yes, it's going to be about me as a Saints fan, as someone born in New Orleans and who was literally born a Saints fan and grew up that way. But I think it's about, as well, any sports fan who has a connection with an athlete that is more than just, oh, that guy plays on my team. And everybody's got them, right? Everybody's got them. Everybody's got an athlete that means a little more to them than just, hey, that guy wore the same jersey of the team that I like to play for. Here's where I'm going to start. The reason that Drew Brees meant so much to the New Orleans Saints, while the playoff wins, 9 of them, the Super Bowl trophy, 1 of them, well, all that's great. And all of that is something that Saints fans will never forget. The reason that Drew Brees meant so much to New Orleans was not because he won a Lombardi. And it was not because he won 9 playoff games. And it was not because he consistently got us into the playoffs. And it was not because the New Orleans Saints were better under Drew Brees' 15 years, even with some of the disappointments that they had, than they had been in the 30 and a half, 40-year history leading up to that point. The reason that Drew Brees was so important to the New Orleans Saints was because Drew Brees showed up in New Orleans at a point in time where that city and that team were at their lowest point. When Drew Brees got there to New Orleans, there were still parts of the city that looked like a bomb went off. When Drew Brees got to the Saints, there were still parts of the city where people's houses had dead bodies in them, right? There was a very popular image that came out of New Orleans at that point in time of a red X that would be spray painted on the front of any houses that were totally ruined, of which there was a lot of them. And that red X kind of got to a point where it really became kind of a symbol of the devastation and the destruction that happened around the Big Easy because of Hurricane Katrina. And there'd be a big red X, and in one corner of the X, there would be a number, which would say how many dead bodies there were in that house. And another one, there would be a sign that showed whether or not anybody had been able to access that house, EMS or otherwise. And after a while, people took that red X and they turned it to a gold X. And instead of those numbers of death and destruction, around the outside of it, they would write NOLA, New Orleans, Louisiana. And they did that. They did that to change that symbol from one of death and destruction and despair, and to turn it into a sign of hope and perseverance and optimism. Drew Brees was that red X turning to a gold one. And those numbers of death and destruction turning into a sign for optimism and hope. And it's not just Drew Brees, right? Sean Payton was there as well. He was brand new. Reggie Bush showed up as well in that draft, number 1 pick. There was a lot more to it than just Drew Brees. But it was a 15 years of Drew Brees. Look, I'll tell you that there was a point in time, 2005, 6, where there were discussions post Jim Haslett, the former coach of the Saints before Sean Payton, where many of us thought we were going to lose our football team. Where many of us thought that the Saints were going to leave. Where many of us thought that the Saints were going to be on our way out. Oklahoma City, one in New Orleans. San Antonio, one in New Orleans. They had investors that were putting money down. The Saints were playing games in San Antonio, in Oklahoma City, down at Tiger Stadium, in Baton Rouge, where LSU plays. We thought we were losing that team. And here comes this quarterback with a torn labrum out of San Diego, undersized, short. Miami had passed on him. Remember, Nick Saban was the head coach down there. Nick Saban wanted Drew Brees. He shows up. Miami says, nope, we don't think that his shoulder is going to allow him to be ready. They pass on him. He ends up there in New Orleans. And all of a sudden, in 2006, the New Orleans Saints, a team that many thought would not be the New Orleans Saints for much longer, are in the NFC Championship game. And then just a few seasons later, they're in the NFC Championship game again, and they win on a Garrett Hartley field goal. And then they're playing in the Super Bowl against Peyton Manning and his Colts, a game nobody thought they would win, and they did. And there's Drew Brees and Sean Payton and the rest of these guys raising a Lombardi trophy, something that no Saints fan at all ever thought we would ever get. We had all dedicated ourselves to failure. We knew that failure was coming. We knew that failure was inevitable. We're the Saints. We're the lovable losers. We're last place always. It's just an excuse for us to drink and eat crawfish on a Sunday. That's all the Saints were. Till they weren't. Drew Brees showed up when the Saints were at their lowest, when New Orleans was at its lowest. And they took that city and they took that football team with him as the leader to the highest points. And that's not even to say who he was as a football player, right? That is how important Drew Brees was. I can have these emotions and I can mention how important Drew Brees was without even telling you how good of a football player he was, right? We all know Drew Brees. Most yards in NFL history to date, though Brady will get them. Second most touchdowns to date in the NFL, though if it wasn't for injuries the last 2 years, he'd be ahead of Brady there. Second highest completion percentage. And the only reason that number, in my opinion, has come down is because Brees the last 2 seasons has played with injury, unfortunately, and it cost him some numbers. The guy is one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I don't think you would be wrong to put Drew Brees at number 2 behind only Tom Brady. I don't think you'd be wrong to do that. There will be people who will argue with you, but it is what it is. But sometimes athletes are more than just athletes. And I think we forget they're people, right? And part of that comes, and this is why when we've had the discussions in the past about how much leeway do you give athletes to speak out? How much leeway do you give athletes to talk about social issues or entertainment issues or whatever else? To say that athletes should be silent outside of sports takes away voices from guys like Drew Brees as well. A guy who showed up and bought in. A guy who showed up and put back together a broken city. Who showed up and kept a football team that we thought was going to be on its way out after years. After so many families in New Orleans spent Sunday after Sunday after Sunday after Sunday gathered around TV, gathered around the radio, eating crawfish, drinking Dixie beer, and celebrating every L the same way we celebrated wins, with a party. We thought that those guys were gone. We thought that they were done. And Drew Brees showing up, Drew Brees being the guy, taking them to that next level, saved that football team. And I go one step further. After Hurricane Katrina, when I was down in the Panhandle, I was actually out of town. My family and I were on a cross-country road trip when Katrina hit. And when we got back, and we had family from Louisiana, from Mississippi, that were showing up because their houses were underwater. When the news was showing image after image after image of bars and restaurants that I've been in, bars and restaurants that I've drank in, that I've celebrated in, that I've had birthdays and weddings and funerals. We party at the funerals too. I'm watching the image of these places that I grew up in, that my family had pictures on the walls, and they're ruined. They're underwater. They're done for. In fact, people were calling for them not to, don't even waste your time. Don't rebuild New Orleans. Just tell everybody move. A solid percentage of the residents ended up in places like Houston, Texas, and Destin, Florida, because it was just easier than rebuilding. I thought the city was toast. I thought my football team was leaving. I thought we were done. And instead, in comes Drew Brees, now, in my opinion, the second best quarterback of all time. Sean Payton, an offensive mastermind. Reggie Bush and Marcus Colston and Roman Harper and all these guys. Tracy Porter, a New Orleans kid himself. And they saved the football team. And they saved the city. They really, it's not me being dramatic. Y'all know I can be dramatic when I need to be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. Because after we saw those images of those restaurants and those bars and those businesses and those homes underwater, then started coming images of people who decided we're not giving up. There was one image that was on the front page of a newspaper that I want to say was out of Florida, but it may have been out of Louisiana. And I'll never forget the picture. It was a picture of a family. Dad, mom, couple of kids. And they're sitting in what used to be the living room of their home. And the walls are gone. It's just the wood frame and the foundation. Pipe sticking up out of the ground. These folks are running a generator. And hooked up to the generator is a television and a satellite dish. And they've got a little bitty TV, probably a 17, 20-inch TV. And they're all gathered, the rest of the family in lawn chairs. The dad's standing up, but he's pointing at the TV. And on the television is a New Orleans Saints game. Drew Brees at the helm. And this family, in the midst of destruction and chaos, in the midst of losing everything they owned and trying to rebuild and put their life back together. Here's this team, here's this family, gather around a television, in the midst of what used to be their house and is now just organized wood and pipe and concrete. And they are screaming at the TV because in that moment in time, all that mattered was whether or not the Saints won that game. That was it. They were able to, sitting in the middle of a home that was the illustration of everything they lost, which was everything. They weren't thinking about it. They didn't care. It didn't matter. Material stuff will come back. What mattered to them in that exact moment was to be there with their family together and watching the New Orleans Saints play. And I'll never forget that picture. It's burned into my memory. I'll never unsee it. It was so profoundly powerful to me. And if Drew Brees and Sean Payton and Reggie Bush and Tracy Porter and Roman Harper and all these guys, if those guys don't show up in New Orleans, I don't know if that picture gets taken. If Drew Brees and the Saints don't create a team that's good enough to justify it, I don't know if they rebuild the Superdome or if they just knock it down and the team moves. I don't know. I don't know where any of that happens. But what I do know is that the bond between that team and the people from that area has proven itself to me to be, as far as I'm concerned, the closest bond between a team and their fans in all of professional sports. Any country, any area, the bond between Saints fans and the Saints is as close, if not closer, than any other professional team around the world. And I believe that because I watched it play out. When people were trying to literally rebuild their lives, they took time out to watch the New Orleans Saints play. And they took time out because the Saints were good. And they were good because of Drew Brees, because of Sean Payton. This just isn't about me as a Saints fan and my family Saints fans and what Drew Brees meant. This is about every athlete who has formed, using their platform, a deeper connection with people that they represent. And it's in all backgrounds. It's in all backgrounds. Whether it is the first black athlete to do a thing and now they feel they have representation, the first Latinx athlete who does a thing and they feel their representation, whether it's the fact that LeBron has taken on the mantle that we lost with Kobe Bryant, and LeBron is the new guy in LA. Whatever, for whatever reason. And not everybody's going to feel the same bond with the same athletes for the same reasons. Some of y'all may not understand or care what and look, there's a lot that I disagree with Drew Brees about. Personally, professionally, business-wise, a lot of things he does, did, said, says that I don't like. But Drew Brees represents that football team that represents me and my family as New Orleanians. A place that, while this is home, will always be near and dear to my heart. And he saved it. He saved that city. He saved that area. And without him, I don't know if there are Saints to win a Lombardi in 2009. To break my heart against Minnesota a couple of years ago. To break my heart against Tom Brady this past year. To still be outraged that they got screwed over by the worst no call in the history of the National Football League. Without him, I don't know that any of that exists. So it hurt. I knew he was retiring. I've had plenty of Saints fans the last couple of months that have been saying to me, Rob, maybe he sticks around. Maybe he's taking his time because he's contemplating. Maybe he's thinking he's going to give it another shot. Maybe. And I told them all, no, he's done. I knew he was done at the end of that Tampa game when he turned and he looked back and his eyes went up towards the scoreboard that flashed his name so many times and would not do it again. When his eyes went to the lights on the roof, lights that lit up all those different records that he set when he was setting them. And I knew he wasn't going to be back. And he looked one last time at the crowd that had gathered there, painfully, a COVID-restricted crowd that had gathered there, knowing it'd be the last time that he ever waved to them wearing that black jersey. I knew he was done. And yet yesterday, when the announcement came and he made it official, it was still everything I had not to pull off to the side of the interstate. I spent last night when I got home 8.5 hours in the car it took me to get home yesterday. I got home and I had to unpack and I had to put stuff away and I had to get prepared. And you know what I did? I sat on the couch. I opened up the laptop and I just watched all of these highlights of Drew Brees that have been put together over the last 15 years. I just sat and I watched the Super Bowl win and the day he set the record for most touchdowns and the day he set the record for most passing yards. I watched all these plays from 2007 with Lance Moore and 2011 with Marcus Colston because they brought back not just the memories of all the losses and the fact that Drew only made it to one play or one Super Bowl and deserved more and won only one Lombardi but deserved more. But because all the memories connected, the memories of death and sadness and destruction after Katrina and the memories of happiness. I was in the building September 25th, 2009. Sorry, September 25th, 2006. It was the first day back in the Superdome after Katrina, taking on Michael Vick and the Atlanta Falcons, Drew Brees at the helm. I was there. I was there in the building when U2 and the Edge played, along with Trombone Shorty. I was there when the Saints ran onto the field, a Saints team we never thought we'd see back. I was there when Steve Gleason blocked the punt into the end zone. I was there when it was recovered in the end zone for a touchdown. When Drew Brees threw that first touchdown pass, I was there. And those are the memories I choose to stick with. And those are the memories that are there because of Drew Brees. So, thank you, Drew Brees. Thank you for the memories. Thank you for the wins. Thank you for saving the Saints. Thank you for keeping them together. But most importantly, thank you for showing up at the lowest point in your career, at the lowest point in the franchise, and busting it all to take us both, you and this franchise, from your lowest point to our collective highest point and keeping us there for years. Quick break. I'm back after this on The Rob Brown Show. It's ESPN Upstate.
You're listening to The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your phone everywhere on the radio.com app. Download the app and make ESPN Upstate a favorite for 24/7 real, unfiltered sports talk.
You know, part of the reason that guys like the one we just talked about retire is because, look, the older you get, the more it wears on your body. And it doesn't matter if you are an elite professional athlete or you're a blue-collar worker who's got to climb around on the floor under sinks and cabinets all day long. It doesn't matter. Your body will break down. At the end of the day, time is undefeated. It's a painful reality we all have to deal with. And that is why QC Kinetics is here for you. QC Kinetics understands that as you age, your body's ability to heal itself degrades. It's just a painful reality. It really is. But they use non-surgical regenerative cellular therapy to help you heal yourself better, faster, and to do so naturally. It uses and accelerates your body's own natural healing processes. It brings them back to the way that you felt when you were younger so that you can heal yourself and get back in the game in your day-to-day natural life. Elite level athletes have had to fly around the world to receive these therapies. Now you can get them right here in the upstate. All you got to do to learn more about the science is go to QCkinetics.com, QCkinetics.com, or give them a call right now at 864-448-3772, 864-448-3772. Mention the Rob Brown Show. Get that free consultation in now from our friends at QC Kinetics. To let you know that, who was it? Let me go back to the stream. Who said that? Was it Joseph? Joseph, I got booked at Furman to play on Friday. Do 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 do.
Sports talk brewed locally.
Oh my God, a hipster! Bring him a microbrew, quick!
This is the Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. The Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It's ESPN Upstate. Quick little segment here so we can get back on the clock. 844-GSP. ESPN is the number, 844-477-3776. So I'll ask you guys, in the wake of Drew Brees' retirement, what athlete? And you can text us 71307 with your answer and why. Tweet us at The Rob Brown Show or at ESPN Upstate, at ESPN Upstate. And you can call us, 844-GSP-ESPN. Do you have a connection to any athlete the way that I described mine to Drew Brees? Like I said, Drew Brees and I didn't always see eye to eye on everything personally or professionally. We don't have to, man. We don't have to. He's a human being just like I am. But do you have a connection? Have you had a connection to any athlete the way that I've had that connection with Drew Brees? And who is that athlete and why? I'll throw it to you, Drew. Is there an athlete, professionally, collegiate level, whatever, is there an athlete that you felt connected to on more than just I watch this guy play a couple times a week kind of level?
Yeah, absolutely. That person for me that really just helped me get into the NFL, because I grew up in a home where we didn't have television and we did a lot of other stuff on Sunday when it came to church and things. We were just really busy on Sundays, but Saturday was our time for football up until the graduating of Peyton Manning. I grew up a Tennessee fan. Tennessee was at the height of its prime, of course, the next year after he graduated, winning the national championship. But I became a fan of whoever he played for, of course, the Colts. So it really became just really Tom Brady was the villain and Bill Belichick versus Peyton Manning. If you're a Peyton Manning fan, That's how it felt. It was just the showdown that became more memorable than the actual Super Bowl because Tom Brady and Peyton Manning played each other to get to the Super Bowl. So then it just became obvious that it was time for him to retire after winning the Super Bowl of the Denver Broncos. The way he was throwing the ball was just almost painful to watch. So this retirement of Drew Brees is not like the retirement of Peyton Manning because I can't remember a time that I watched the New Orleans Saints or the NFL without Drew Brees in it. I don't remember Aaron Brooks. I just did not watch that. But we moved to Georgia in 2001 and to see that rivalry between the Falcons and the Saints.
Oh, yeah.
It became something when Drew Brees really led them against Matt Ryan. And you just saw that Atlanta Falcons were defending Matt Ryan every single year. but you wanted Drew Brees on your team. He was just better. He was just lovable, and just comparing these two guys, there should be no difference, but there was. And Drew Brees has just meant so much to the game. It's going to be weird next year for me, but Peyton Manning was the guy who really got me watching the NFL.
Yeah, and you know, that rivalry I've mentioned many times, that rivalry to me is one of the most underappreciated rivalries in sports. I mean, Atlanta and New Orleans do not like each other when it comes to NFL football. It's a great rivalry in the NFL that rarely ever gets talked about. And you know, it wouldn't have been that rivalry if it wasn't for Drew Brees, if it wasn't for Matt Ryan, not Ryan. It wouldn't have gone down that way. You're absolutely spot on. So yeah, I will, like I said, I will throw to you guys out there in Radio Land. Do you have a connection with an athlete that runs deeper than they play for my team? Therefore, you know, I've mentioned Drew Brees is mine. I've got a couple other ones. Roy Jones Jr. I don't think I would not be where I am without Roy Jones Jr. RJJ took a chance on letting me work for his company back in the day, which really got me noticed on some bigger platforms and ultimately led to me being here with you guys here in the upstate. But, you know, again, as someone, you know, Greenville, South Carolina is home, but I'm from New Orleans, Louisiana. And that connection, it was likely saved. My connection with the Saints. I mean, I own more New Orleans Saints stuff than I do any other team. Heck, I probably have as many New Orleans Saints polos as I do just regular golf shirts at this point in my life. And you know, I had to get rid of those years ago if it wasn't for number 9. So that connection remains as deep as it ever been. So I will throw it to y'all. Is there an athlete that you have that level of connection with? 844 GSP ESPN 844-477-3776. Jason is on the line. Let's get Jason in here real quick before we run to the break. Jason, thanks for taking a minute, man. Great to have you on the show. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for taking my call. You know, your sidekick already kind of stole my thunder. Peyton Manning, no doubt. I'm a Tennessee fan. You know, just following his whole career from, you know, college. I remember when he signed for Tennessee, coming out of high school. And I was only 8th grade. I was around 14 years old. And following his whole career was just amazing. And, you know, when he went to the NFL, I was a Packers fan, but my second favorite team was always who Peyton Manning played for. And I was pretty upset when your Saints, I was happy for Drew Brees, happy for the whole New Orleans, city of New Orleans, but I was pretty upset after that game. And, you know, being a Tennessee fan, you know, fighting words, people say anything bad about Peyton Manning. Those are fighting words. I mean, it's amazing the connection that Tennessee fans have with Peyton Manning. I mean, even if East Tennessee and a lot of Tennessee, became Colts fans after Manning over Titans fans, especially East Tennessee after Peyton went to the Colts. And no question about it, you know, but it's Peyton Manning. It's one of my all-time favorite athletes. And, you know, with Drew Brees, you know, just congratulations to you as a fan watching him on a career. What an amazing career. What an amazing guy. I recommend for anybody to read his sports autobiography. It's very good and kind of heartbreaking, some of the things he went through, especially with his mother. And just a guy, he's very, very easy to pull for. Going to miss him, but hey, he done well. So thanks for my call.
Jason, appreciate it, man. Thanks for checking in. 844 GSP ESPN. Yeah, I suspect we're going to hear Peyton Manning a lot as one of those athletes. I don't have any doubt about it. We're going to hear Peyton Manning a lot as one of those athletes. Let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. 844 GSP ESPN. Text is 71307. Start your text with ESPN. And we'll get back on the clock. I'm Rob. He's Drew. You're listening to ESPN Upstate. You're listening to The Rob Brown Show.
You're listening to The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your Amazon or Google smart speaker. Just say, play ESPN Upstate.
The Healthcare Clinic has reversed the medical symptoms of over 8,000 clients. Belly fat can aggravate the high-risk symptoms of high...
We got that commercial to play. That was nice. All right. I thought we'd get more phone calls after that, to be honest.
There is one bug in my house. It's a little fruit fly or gnat or something. Just one. And in the, I don't know, 6,500 feet of square feet to fly around in this house, Drew, he just keeps flying right across my face, right at eye level. There's 650 square feet in this apartment. There's 3 other rooms he could fly in, and he just right in front of my face over and over and over and over. And and I can't, I obviously can't go anywhere to hunt him down. And he waits just until I forget, right? He flies across my face, and then he waits just until I forget, and then flies by again.
Yep.
Freaking
That's what I would
jerk.
do if I was a fly on your wall.
Unbelievable. What a jerk.
He'll be gone in 3 days. Longest 3 days of your life.
Seriously. Because I'll forget about him. I'll forget about him when the show's over, and I won't see him again until 12:01 tomorrow afternoon when we go back on the air.
Yep. Remember me?
I'm back.
Kong comes out March 31st.
Yes, it does.
That's the only movie I'm excited about this month.
Oh, man. Kong v. Godzilla is going to be great.
I got to get HBO Max back. I took the free trial and then unsubscribed.
Yeah. I had it for a while, and then I dropped it because I basically had to pick because I was spending like $75 a month on streaming services.
Yeah.
So I just had to pick which one I wanted to use. Yeah. And HBO probably had the most movies, but I just never watched them. But now that they've got Justice League Snyder Cut coming out in a couple of weeks, Godzilla v. Kong in a couple of weeks, they're doing enough now that I may even trade Netflix in for HBO for a little while.
Yeah. It's not a bad idea. I dropped Disney Plus, HBO Max when the trial ran out. The only reason I even got that was my girlfriend really wanted to watch Wonder Woman. So I watched a few things on there, and then right before it canceled, I just streamed Big Bang Theory like crazy just to get my money's worth out of it, I guess. But,
you're a Big Bang Theory fan, huh?
Yeah. Well, after streaming it, the whole thing, I was kind of like, well, this is kind of fun. So it's been the latest on my mind, I guess. Back in the day, it's How I Met Your Mother was kind of my jam, but that was a long time ago.
Right. How I Met Your Mother was great until it wasn't.
Yep.
I tried Big Bang Theory. I'll be honest with you. I tried Big Bang Theory. Did nothing for me. And I've told Lonzo this too. It did nothing for me for one reason. It is a show written by dumb people about what they think smart people are like.
Yeah, I agree.
One of the first ones I watched, they just started making oh, these guys are nerds. And it's like, they're not though. That's not how, there are some nerds like that, but stop.
Yeah. For Chuck Lorre, it was a breath of fresh air compared to his other shows, 2.5 Men.
Sure.
So it was the best he could do. 30 seconds. So, but no, it's definitely not one of those go-to shows, in my opinion, that you just turn on randomly when you're feeling bored. It's you got to be in the right mood for it, where there is literally an agenda like I had. I was like, I've got to watch something on HBO Max,
right,
to get my money's worth. So I'm going to see what this is about. I watched the finale. I skipped all the way to the ahead to see if the finale crashed or burned. It didn't. So I was like, well, good for them, but not great.
You're listening to The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your computer and tablet at ESPNUpstate.com.
All right, 844-GSP, ESPN, the number if you want to check in here before the end of the show. So once again, our brackets are out. I have been asked if we are going to do a bracket contest here on the station. I am going to find out after the show today if A, we are going to do a bracket competition, and B, if so, what prizes might be involved with that. I will let you guys know probably tomorrow on the show. So stay tuned for that. We will likely do one. I just don't know if I don't know if I'll be allowed to. I would like to give the winner something. I just don't know if I'll be allowed to or not. may do an opportunity to co-host the segment with me. We may have some T-shirts to give away. I'm going to look when we get off the air today and find out. But brackets are out. We have mentioned where Clemson sits right now. They are matched up against Rutgers. By the way, Mark Ryan on Twitter just minutes ago, and you can go follow Mark Ryan at MARC Ryan on air. Mark MARC Ryan on air points out that 538 has put out their first round bracket projections, and they have only 2 seeding upsets in the first round. The other one is an 8-9 game, which is not a huge upset, but number 10 Rutgers over number 7 Clemson down in the Midwest bracket is one of only 2 seeding upsets that 538 projections has in the opening round of play. It's not a huge upset line. Vegas has, Drew pointed out earlier, Rutgers as a 1.5 point favorite over the Clemson Tigers. I think that's about right for me. I like Clemson in this game. I'm going to tell you the truth. And look, you got a very tough second round matchup in Houston, a 24-3 Houston team. BPI has a 24% likelihood of Houston to make it to the final game, not the Final Four, the championship match. Remember, on that side of the bracket, to get to the championship match, they would have to go through Baylor. They would have to go through Ohio State. They will have to go through Illinois. They will have to go through some pretty good teams between the Midwest and the southern side of the bracket. But look, a 24% chance there is pretty ridiculous. Pretty ridiculous. That being said, I think Clemson can win that game. I think Clemson's got big enough interior guys, strong enough interior guys, if they play their game. Here's what I'm worried about. I am worried that Clemson does the same thing that they did against the Miami Hurricanes, right? I think that they could end up doing the same thing they did against Miami, which is try to dictate the speed of the game the same way that Houston wants to, right? I think they would try to win a game of guard v guard. And I can't go with that. That's my one big fear. If they play their style of ball, I think they can beat Houston. And if they can beat Houston, the biggest challenge they would have between them and a Final Four would be number 1 Illinois. And Illinois' got some guys up on that side of the bracket that make me nervous. Georgia Tech. Illinois is a better team than Georgia Tech, but Georgia Tech got hot at the right time. They got a little help by getting that semifinal bye into the finals to win the ACC, but they won the ACC and not a terrible ACC. Oregon State, Oklahoma State, both of those teams got very hot at just the right time. Tennessee out of the SEC, coming in as a 5 seed is a threat. People are sleeping on a good little quiet Loyola Chicago team. They're one of those Cinderella teams that did everything right all season long, and nobody pays attention to them until they make a run in the tournament. That's not going to be an easy run for Illinois. And then they're waiting on Houston in the bottom half of the bracket. San Diego State, West Virginia, Clemson, Rutgers. Clemson, I think, is set up for a Sweet 16 run if they can get by Houston, and they can get by Houston if they play their game. If they play their game and they do not let the Cougs dictate the pace of that game. Play inside-out basketball, and there's a very good chance. All right, let's take a break. We'll come back here in just a minute. We will wrap it up the same way we always do with Twitter trending topics. Drew's going to tell us what's trending on Twitter, and I will give you 30 to 35 seconds on what I know about it. We talk about what you're talking about. Coming up next on The Rob Brown Show, this is ESPN Upstate.
Dispensing real, unfiltered sports talk every weekday noon to 3. This is The Rob Brown Show on ESPN Upstate.
Tracy says, Michael Jordan and Tracy McGrady. MJ is a dud. Tracy McGrady continue my desire to watch and love basketball. Definitely injuries hurt his career, but I loved how Tracy McGrady, man. When we mention the greats, nobody ever talks about T-Mac, and they should. Tracy McGrady was a blast to watch play. And yeah, I think most people around, and I'm assuming you're around my age. Most people around my age would absolutely say MJ was at the peak when we were in our formative years, and even as a kid, even at 6, 7, 8, I think we all kind of realized how special it was to be watching Michael Jordan play at the time that we were watching MJ play. Can't imagine there's any shortage of people in their 30s to 40s that would tell you that Michael Jordan kept them as a basketball fan, no doubt about it. You good to go for Twitter, dog?
Yeah, looking good. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. Thirty seconds.
And now, the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter Trending Topics.
Can't hear you, fella.
We are introducing what's happening on Twitter other than what we've already talked about, because everything that we've covered today, of course,
is trending today.
Yeah, that's the main headline.
Obviously.
Happy Ides of March making the list.
The Ides of March are upon thee. Fear the Ides of March. Julius Caesar, of course, taken out this day in ancient Rome, at least according to Shakespearean lore. More importantly than that, we are now just a couple of days away from St. Patrick's Day. Drew, you'll be with us on St. Patrick's Day, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a little slot day to all of you. A little look of the Irish. My Irish roots, my family on my dad's side is from my great grandparents on my dad's side were from Ireland. Got off the boat from Ireland and then made their way over the years down to Louisiana. So yes, we will be celebrating St. Patrick's Day on Wednesday. No doubt about it.
Trending is First Whiskey.
First Whiskey. I don't know why First Whiskey is trending. I'm not 100% sure. But what I will say is that I remember my first whiskey as we get ready to celebrate Irish heritage and St. Patrick's Day in a couple of days. I hated it. I hated every second about it. I thought it was just absolutely poison. The older I got, the more it became whiskey, beer. I mean, these things are acquired taste without a doubt about it. And whiskey's in that group. Now I very much appreciate a good, smooth Irish whiskey, and may or may not partake in one or two on Wednesday.
Yeah, a lot of people are saying what their first whiskey is. It's the question is starting your St. Patrick's Day celebration early. Your first whiskey is on us if you text Bushmills.
Oh, okay. Bushmills getting into the spirit. You got to like it. I will tell you this. My St. Patrick's Day celebration will take place around 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be a grand idea for me to be celebrating on the air.
Mine will start about 2:30. So.
I don't dislike Bushmills. I will tell you the truth. Bushmills is not bad. Bushmills is one of my at-home sipping whiskeys. Like if I'm just sitting at the house and I want something that's not, overwhelmingly priced to sit back and enjoy, Bushmills is a good choice.
Absolutely. Trending is Marvelous Marvin.
Marvelous Marvin. Of course, the boxing world lost a legend this weekend with the passing of Marvelous Marvin Hagler. I'm going to say this. Round one of his fight way back in the day versus what was it, Tony Hearns? Yes. One of the greatest boxing rounds of all time. It was just 3 hours of unmitigated, unrelenting, ceaseless violence. It was one of the greatest rounds of all time. And from the stories that have been told, Marvin Hagler was just a genuinely good dude, just a good person. And he said at one point, if you cut open my brain, inside of my head, you'll find a boxing glove, because that's all I am and all that I love. Boxing lost a legend this weekend, and Marvin Hagler, no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
Should I have time for one more?
Blue Ivy Carter.
Come on. Did she show
might get you? All right. You had mentioned yesterday the Grammys that had happened. So apparently Blue picks up an award as being the youngest Grammy winner ever, being on the best music video.
Grammy for?
Well, the best music video was Brown Skin Girl, so I watched the 6-minute video. It feels more like a cameo. And so I figured the next artist is what they're going to do, take their 9-day-old baby, set them and break that record.
So basically they came up with a way to give Beyonce Jr. an award for the sake of it.
You're right. Good for her.
I'm sure it's a great music video and all. I don't know. I haven't seen the video. I haven't heard the song. I can't tell you anything about it. I will tell you that I don't hate award shows like a lot of people do, but the Grammys jumped the shark to me a couple of years ago. I've been out since then. All right, it's time for your $1,000 cash stash keyword of the day. You want to win a grand? It's very simple to do. All you need to do is text this upcoming hour's keyword, cool, 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 to 72888 or 72881, 72881. Text COOL, COOL, for your chance to win $1,000 in the $1,000 cash dash on ESPN Upstate, powered by BetQL. Let BetQL's proven data and analytics help you become a better. Download the BetQL app today. Again, text COOL to 72881 for your chance to win a cool $1,000. Mark, Ryan, and Diesel are up next with Offsides. Thanks for hanging out. For Drew, I'm Rob. This is the Rob Brown Show right here on ESPN Upstate. Later.
ESPN Upstate, WYRD Greenville.
Appreciate you, buddy. And those of y'all watching the stream, we'll see you on the flip side.